Hi. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Founding Member Club. This is the first call that we're doing in a series of calls, and we're going to be delivering fresh, advanced, and interactive content. And it's the only place you can actually interact with me unless you're live in a seminar. So every founding member will get 3 of these calls a month. One will be with me, and the other 2 will be with my executive coaches. And they are on the line here as well, and I'm going to introduce you to them in just a moment. As well as that, you have the ability to get into 2 founding member club events a year, live events. A lot of people have been asking me where these things are going to be, and I'm going to reveal the next event and where it's going to be coming up during this call, so you should see that here in a little bit. And if you have any questions whatsoever during this call, I really highly suggest, that you do what's called raising your hand. It's a little bit strange, but you can do it from your phone. Basically, if you have a question, you can press *2, and you can raise your hand, and I'll see it on here, and I can actually unmute you, and we can chat for a bit. And we are going to be doing a lot of hot seat kind of conversations, and I do want to hear any kind of issues that you may have had or anything you've done that's worked. If you want any kind of critique, I can help you out with that. If you have any itching, serious question that you should probably see a doctor about, you can ask me that, and I will answer, even though I'm not a physician. And I'm going to walk you through whatever I can to get you to the next level. Basically, I personally think you should absolutely take advantage of this because, especially with the Q&A section, because one-on-one coaching with me is around $10,000 a person. So if you want to get lots of value from this call, I suggest you write your questions down or you raise your hand, and I'll unmute you directly, and we'll go ahead and interact. A lot of my webinars and things like that I've presented in the past, I would only answer certain questions because I didn't have time. On this one, I'm going to be answering as many as is humanly possible. So if you raise your hand, it's a very good possibility I'm going to get to you. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce a couple of my coaches here. First, Brad is sitting next to me. You can go ahead and say, "Hey, Brad," here.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So Brad is just moved to LA to work with me full time here and to be a coach, and from Michigan, where it's cold. Not right now though. And another coach, another executive coach here is Joe. Joe, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello.
Cool, awesome. Joe is in from England at the moment, so he doesn't have the accent to go with it, unfortunately. But he can make it happen there, Joe, I think.
Working on it. Yep.
All right. So essentially, we're going to be here to answer any questions that you have. Joe and Brad are going to be doing the follow-up calls coming up. I'll be interacting with them a lot. We'll be talking about topics. And the topic we're going to be going over today is going to be mostly inner game based and sort of belief system based. Now, I've written the curriculums for several different companies that teach what I'm going to teach you now. And the reason why I write it is because I'm pretty good at understanding systems and creating systems on how to attract, build a rapport or a deep connection with and seduce women, as well as keep your relationships together for a long, extended period of time and not lose the attraction, sort of watch it slip away. So I've done a lot of work around this in this space. I think I'm pretty well respected in this space. People could probably say otherwise, but I get a lot of respect, at least, for what I know. And I want to impart that wisdom onto you during this first call here. Now, the next call that we're going to be doing, just to get that out of the way, the next call is going to be on, that will be a week from today. So that will be on the 13th? No, sorry. It's a week and a day from today. So on the 14th, next Thursday, the 14th of this month, which is July, of course, you'll see your first follow-up call will be then, and then your second follow-up call is going to be on the 28th of this month of July. I will send you these details so you don't have to write that down, but if you do have a calendar in front of you, you definitely want to go ahead and put that information in your calendar so you can catch that. It's going to be the same time, and I'll send the call-in details and everything to you before so you can get that information. And all the stuff that you learned today, we're going to have you put into action, and you're going to be basically getting follow-up calls with this information over the next 2-3 weeks. And then we'll start another call next month, and we'll do the same thing again. There'll be follow-up calls. You'll get lots of individualized coaching and all of your questions answered by professionals, which is exactly what you came here for. So, all right, so let me go ahead and dive right into what we're going to be talking about today and give you sort of an overview. Open up my curriculum here. Do some clicking on the computer. So today, like I said, we're going to be going over some things that are mindset-based, some things that are, so to speak, inner game, quote unquote. I'm doing air bunny rabbit quotations marks right now. So the things I'm going to be going over will have a direct and immediate effect on your confidence with women. And it's not a gimmick. It's not a technique. It's not like something you're using to trick women into liking you or, whatever it is. Even though, those are exciting sometimes. But for now, though, we're going to be going over what I believe is sort of core and backbone of what it means to be a truly attractive man. I know a lot of guys who are in this industry and try to teach this for a living. Most of them don't know what they're talking about. And I'd say most, and I'd say probably about 90% are not any better than any of their students are. So what I'd like to call it first is what is missing in these other coaches that I've seen that is really keeping them from getting very, very good. Some of them are okay, but a lot of them could be a whole lot better, and there's something sort of stopping them and keeping them back. And that thing that's stopping them and keeping them back is mindset. So what they start doing is they start to get into this because they want to prove to themselves that they're actually an attractive guy. But the problem is they never actually believe that they're an attractive guy, and so they move forward with these different, starting to meet women, starting to use these techniques, and they get to the point where they're kind of okay with women, and then, they start teaching and guys look up to them, and so they start living these fake lives where they're saying they're good with women, and they're just not. I mean, I know these guys. They're not very good with women. There's lots of guys that are doing this. Probably a lot of guys that you've heard of and or know and maybe even follow. Some of them lie. There's a handful of really amazing, high integrity people, and of course I'm friends with almost all of them. But the majority of people who are in this industry are just can't get out of their own way, so to speak. And I want to give you what they never got the opportunity to get, and that is that mindset of an attractive man. So the first thing that I want to go over today, and I'm going to go over a lot of things, this call is going to be about an hour long total. If we end a little bit early, I'll take lots of questions until we run out of time. If we end a little bit late, then I'm sorry about that, but it'll be an awesome call, so whatever. But ultimately, though, I want to go over the first sort of concept here, and that is the connection between your subconscious or unconscious mind and your conscious mind. Now, this is very, very important. I was in New York City, and I lived there for a while, and I was coaching out of New York, and I had an opportunity to learn from a first-generation Dale Carnegie instructor. He's like 80 million years old, and he's just got these superpowers. Like, he can talk to people, and knows exactly what to say to get them to be on his side. He doesn't make a whole lot of money, just does coaching for a living, but yet all of his friends are like multi-millionaires and billionaires. He was actually coaching for a billionaire friend of mine. I don't know how I met a billionaire, but I did. And, this billionaire guy looked up to him a lot and brought him in, and he was helping him build his business and everything too, and build his team up. Well, he taught me the concept I'm going to teach you now, and it's been sort of one of the concepts that has been a game changer for me, and what separates sort of what I teach in a lot of ways is understanding this direct connection between your subconscious, or some people could say your unconscious mind, and your conscious mind. So the way that he described it, his name is Howard Tangler, and the way he described it is that your conscious mind is like the programmer for your subconscious or unconscious mind. I'm sure we have at least one programmer in here. I know Joe's a programmer, so he understands this pretty well. But essentially, your conscious mind, what you experience in the world around you, programs your subconscious mind to believe that things are true. Now, this is where your beliefs come in. Now, this may not seem directly related to meeting women immediately, but if you think about it, if you believe that you're not an attractive guy, or if you believe that you're pretty attractive, or if you believe that only certain kinds of women like you, these are all things that your conscious mind is programmed into your subconscious mind, and I'm going to teach you how to reprogram that now so that you can put whatever you want to put in there, which is a lot more helpful. But first, we need to understand this connection, like I said, and you need to understand that what you say and what you think actually changes what you believe can or can't happen. And also what you believe in general is true. It changes what's called your reality. And so if you have a reality, and in your reality you see that women like you whenever you're not at a bar, but they don't like you when you're at a bar, well, here's what happens when you first get that concept in. Maybe it's based on some kind of reality. Maybe you see something that shows you that that's the case. Well, after that, if you believe that's the case, then you start projecting this to people, and they pick up on it. Women are very, very, very good at reading body language, and they do it in a sort of innate way, in a way that we can't understand as men. They're much better at reading body language than we are. And so what we do is we go out and we continue to speak to women, but we're speaking from a place of where we believe that we're actually going to be shot down and sort of rejected. And so what happens is we start to see rejection all the time, and it gets worse and worse, and then we just decide that it's time for us to never go to a bar again. We don't do it ever again. And that's fine, because, bars aren't the be-all, end-all. And, meeting women in a bar at nighttime in a high-impact environment isn't the way for every guy to meet women. There's ways to meet women during the daytime, not just daytime, but at nighttime, but not at a bar. Maybe like out at a lounge or a friend's house or a party, and there's, the grocery store. There's tons of different ways to meet women, and guys tend to think that the only way to do it, or the only real way to do it, is to go out to a bar. So it's okay if you don't want to do that already, and that's already your mindset. But what I'd like to do is give you the tools to be able to walk into a bar if you want to, and sort of take it over. Joe, I know that you're not wired for going to a bar naturally, because you're a judger, I know that, and you've gotten really, really good at going out to bars and meeting and attracting beautiful women. I just wanted to know if you could speak to that for a minute and sort of talk about your experience and how it was, some of your struggles moving forward and learning this stuff and how you sort of overcame those.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's spot on. I think my natural strengths were in other areas, and that's just it. They were my natural strengths, and it really came back to a lot of this kind of programming yourself to understand that you could develop other strengths, really. So, excuse me. I think originally that was definitely my biggest limitation in that area. Mm-hmm. So it really came back to this, started with this, and this was kind of what made everything whole, I think, at that point.
Yeah. Was there at any point ever, whenever you were going out, that you thought that you weren't going to get any better at this?
Maybe years ago. Not that comes, I don't remember a specific time. Mm-hmm. It might have been peaks and valleys. I didn't make snap judgments and say that I'm not going to get any better at this. I might have thought I plateaued in certain areas. Mm-hmm. And then, as I realized that some of my beliefs weren't conducive to what my goals actually were, and reshaped those, it kind of continued to plow forward, really. Right.
And I had, since I met you for the first time, I have an ability to be able to see who's going to be good at this if they keep with it, and who, really good in an area where they can actually teach it to other guys. And I saw that in you, and I saw that in Brad, which is why I brought you guys on board with me in the first place. And it is a struggle. I mean, for me, in the very beginning, not even in the very beginning, in the middle, in the middle of studying, not like just in the early years, but even when I started to get better, it was increasingly important to me that I understand how to control these belief systems and sort of blow the lid off of my reality, so to speak, so that I could control what I believe is possible. So your conscious mind will program your subconscious mind. So this is what that means. Is essentially, if you say something out loud, or if you see something and you make a snap judgment on that whatever you see, whatever it is that you experience, the experience is showing you, then it will become your reality. You will see that always. And Joe, you were kind of explaining for a second that you never made snap judgments, and that's why you progressed, because you sort of decided that stuff can happen, but it isn't necessarily who you are. Like, you didn't identify with it. And that, I think, is what sort of is at the core, and where most people screw up, is that they start to identify and say, I am blank. Anytime you say, I am blank, and that blank is there, and you put a word in there, you become whatever your perception of that thing is. And there have been a lot of studies on this all over the place. College studies, that have been done for dissertations, also business studies, sports studies for limitations. And I had the opportunity to coach an Olympic triathlete once. And I sort of sat him down and I asked him, the first thing I asked him was what happens to him when he's running? You know, when he's like, he was doing well, he wins up into the last like 10% of the race, then he falls behind to maybe like halfway in the pack. And he said he didn't know. He's just running and then he loses steam and he can't keep going. And then I said, okay, I have a question for you. What's losing to you? And he said, well, losing is like getting behind the middle of the pack. I said, okay, well, what's winning? He's like, winning is first place. I was like, well, here's your problem. Your problem is that you're trying not to lose, not trying to win, right? So he was trying not to lose, and so he was like, oh, I can fall back to the middle of the pack, and I can be there, and I can exist, and I won't lose. So it's not a big deal. But once I switched it around and said, look, you know what, here's how you're going to hack your brain here. And, we had to work on this, and I wouldn't say this to everybody, but he was ready for this. I said, all right, I want you to take a piece of paper, I want you to write first place equals winning. Second place equals losing. So he was like, okay, well, I don't want to do that. He didn't want to pressure himself. He didn't want to be too hard on himself. And we're sort of built to not want to be too hard on ourselves. But I was like, look, just do it. And you know that the truth is if you finish, above the half of the pack, then you're doing well. So just put down that second place is losing and look at it every day. And just get that fighting spirit and see if it helps. And he did it in his next race. He got third place. And then after that, he's been in the top 5 triathletes in the world. And I'm not going to say that I did all that. It's obviously a lot of training to be a triathlete in the first place, and most of that was from his training. But as soon as he reframed it, he allowed himself to run faster. He allowed himself to finish the race. And that's sort of what we do. We get in our own way. We see a hot girl at a bar, and we go, she's hot, she's a 10. And then somewhere in our heads we're going, she wouldn't like me, or she's not my type, or I'm not good enough for her. Whatever it is we have, these little stupid things we say to ourselves, we don't give ourselves the opportunity to maybe be wrong about that. And so what happens is we don't walk up to her, or worse, we do walk up to her expecting to get rejected. And there's one thing that's absolutely true, and I think you should write this down if you do have notes open, if you're in front of a piece of paper now, or if you have a Word document open on your computer or something. Write this down. You get what you expect, not what you deserve. This is very, very important. You get what you expect, not what you deserve. Not only is it important in the rest of your life and business and everything else, but very important when it comes to meeting and attracting women. You get what you expect, not what you deserve. This is so crucial. And the reason why I say it's so crucial is because if you shift this one thing about yourself, you will open up all those hot women in the bar, in the club, at Starbucks, walking down the street, whatever. All the hot women that you really want to approach and attract, you'll be able to get the same amount of success with them as you do with any other unattractive woman you've ever been with. If you ever experienced the whole, the women that I'm attracted to don't like me, but the ones that I don't like are all over me kind of thing. If you have experienced that, the reason why that's happening is because you're changing what you're doing to these other women. When you walk up to a hot woman, you're changing your behavior and you don't even know you're doing it. And that's a massive problem. So what you have to do, and this is probably one of the most important things that I have ever taught, the single most important concept as far as inner game and confidence changing goes and mindset goes, is that you have to do what's called putting your challenges in the past. So this is crucial. Do you remember going over this ever? I'm not sure if I ever went over this with you, Brad. Just putting challenges in the past?
Yeah.
Okay. And Joe, I'm not sure. I think I went over this with you as well in the first course you took years ago. But essentially, what you have to do is, not what you have to do. Let me explain it first, and then we'll go into what it means and how to apply it. Putting your challenges in the past essentially makes good use of your programmer that programs your subconscious mind. So what we do that hinders us more than probably anything is we identify ourselves with certain mistakes we've made, and we say that we made them now. So, for example, I might say, if I'm not thinking about it, I might go, I really suck at approaching beautiful women, right? So that may be true to you, and maybe something that you've believed forever. And it's really difficult to let that go. I like the idea of a lot of things on paper. But some things don't work. Like, for example, the sort of secret concept, the affirmation concept that, you just say what you want to the universe and it gives it to you. I don't, I'm not going to knock it really, but I don't really see that being the case. I mean, I just don't, I'm looking at facts here. Now, I know that it helps a lot, obviously, but I don't think that you just say what you want and the universe gives it to you. I think you go out and you make it happen. And you say what you want and then you go get it. And you can't be afraid to screw it all up. Now, I don't believe that the secret is really all about, say what you want to the universe and sitting there, but I do believe that there's a magic power in the ability to say what you want and also say an affirmation or something in a way in which it allows you to accept that it's even possible in the first place. So if you've ever been, actually it'd be great if any of you guys have ever, and again, if you want to raise your hand on this, press *2. If you've ever been at a bar and you've walked up to a woman before that you're like got the guts up to walk up to her because she's so hot, and you walk up and she just didn't give you the time of day, then press *2 and raise your hand. I just want to see how many guys have done that before. I know I've done it like 1,000 times. It's happened to me a lot. If you're on this call now and you have, just press *2 and I'll be able to see. So it looks like we've got the majority of people so far already hitting *2. So essentially what's going on here whenever you are sort of walking up to this girl in the first place is you are saying to yourself before you go up, that girl's hot. It would be amazing if I was good enough to attract her. It would be amazing. But at the same time, you get pumped up, you get really excited, you get ready to go, and then you walk up there and you're super pumped about this. You're really motivated. You go up and then you're scared shitless, of course, which is normal. It's totally normal. And you walk up, and what comes out of your mouth? Pretty much nothing. Nothing of intellect comes out of your mouth. Nothing that makes any kind of serious sense. And I've had this happen to me countless times, especially in the very beginning of my study. And the reason why is to understand that it was happening, the attraction was happening before I walked up in the first place. And that's really what I want to get to now. So one of the most powerful things that I've ever taught, like a single concept I've ever taught, is the idea of putting your challenges in the past. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take this opportunity now to go over some things that you suck at and sort of help you reframe those. So I'm going to lower everyone's hands here. There we go. And what I'd like to do is for the next couple minutes here, if anybody has anything that they're thinking about themselves, like I'm not good at meeting women at night, I'm not good at attracting blonde women, I'm not good at attracting brunettes, I'm not good at attracting women taller than me, or any excuse you have that you'd like to sort of air out as dirty laundry right now, I'd be totally cool with talking to you about it right now. And as long as you don't mind your brothers here hanging out and learning from what I teach you and from what you can teach them as well, go ahead and hit *2 again and raise your hand, and I will go ahead and help you out with that. So I'm going to go ahead and take the first one now. Brett, I'm going to unmute you. Can you hear me okay, Brett?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool. All right. So Brett, I'm happy you're on the call because you're a good friend of mine, and we've been working on lots of stuff together for a while, and I feel that there was a while that I saw you kind of hit a wall, and then and I sort of ran out of time and I had to go run around like a chicken with my head cut off here for a while. So sorry about that. But I would love to hear what are some of your sort of limiting beliefs around attracting women.
I've always had a problem approaching women.
Okay. In what kind of capacity? Like, if you had to be a little bit more specific about it, what would you say?
I don't know how more specific I can be. I freeze up, I mean, human interaction I do very well, but just cold approaching to a woman, I don't know if it frightens me or what it is.
Mm-hmm. Now, is this, I have a couple of questions about this because this is obviously very common frustration of guys. But there is a specific sort of pattern that I've seen in the past, and I'd like to see, if you don't mind, Brett, I'd like to sort of dive a little bit deeper with this. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to ask you to make some distinctions. Is it all women, or is it only certain kinds of women?
I guess I'm gonna have to go always. It just sometimes I'm in a great mood and I just go for it, but 99% of the time I just look and it just frees up.
Okay. So I'm going to make a
all women.
What was that?
I'm going to have to stick with all women.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to make a distinction here. It's going to help you out a little bit. First, let's just, for the record, say that you have a hard time, that what you said was you have a hard time approaching all women. Right? So that's on the record. All right. So this is very, very important. So what if it was an old lady? Would you have a hard time approaching an old lady, Brett?
No.
Okay. Okay. I'm not trying to be patronizing, but let's just continue. So not all women accept old ladies so far, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. So what about really ugly, like absolutely minging, terrible looking women? What about them?
I guess I'm going to have to say no.
Right. That makes sense. Because there's nothing you're going to get, obviously, so you walk up. So except old women and ugly women. Also, let's say, relatives. What about relatives that are women?
I have no problem talking to them.
Okay, so anybody who's not related to you, who's not old or not completely ugly, you have a problem walking up to and approaching. So let's just sort of see what's common here. What is it that makes your approach anxiety go away around women that are old, women that are related to you, and women that are really, really ugly? What's the common theme here among these women?
I guess the common thing, I'm comfortable.
You're comfortable, right? But they also have nothing to give you. Well, you're not looking for anything from these girls, are you? I mean, maybe you are. I don't know. I'm not sure if you're into grannies or not, but it could be. But you're probably not expecting to get anything from these girls,
Right.
And so that's why your approach anxiety's gone around that. Now, that's very, very important. That means that your approach anxiety is directly related to you wanting something from the women that you're walking up to. You want them to like you. You want them to be attracted to you. You have a desired outcome. And because you have a desired outcome, you're immediately outcome dependent, meaning that you need this to go a certain way, and if it doesn't go a certain way, you're going to beat yourself up over it. Now, the irony behind this is that not having an outcome dependency, being sort of outcome independent, where you don't care what happens, allows you to attract women. So the irony is that the only women you can attract right now, comfortably, are relatives, old ladies, and minging women, And that's the problem. The problem is that what you're doing is you're changing your behavior. Now, here's what I'd like to do. Just for fuck's sake, I guess, in the beginning here. Why don't we try sort of reframing what you said so that you can allow yourself to sort of begin to get over that. This is the first step that most people take toward overcoming something like this. So the first thing I would ask you to do is I'd ask you to, if you're to be completely honest, you don't really know if you are, if you have a hard time approaching women right now because you're not doing it right now, are you? I mean, I don't think you are. If you're doing it on the phone, you're the superstar, but you're not doing it at the moment, are you, Brett?
Okay, you're cutting in and out. I didn't understand that.
Okay. So essentially I'm asking, are you approaching women right now while you're on the phone?
No.
Okay. So that would lead me to believe that you don't know if that's actually true for right now. The truth is that you used to have a problem and a problem approaching what you thought were attractive women, right? Now you may feel like you still have that problem. It may be something that you're like, oh, but I still have it or whatever in your head. But let's for a moment, let's kind of put that thought aside and let's just focus on the past, putting this one concept in the past. Now, if you could for a second, Brett, and I know this is kind of silly, but if you could sort of humor me here and just tell me, like repeat after me basically, and just say, I used to have a hard time attracting beautiful women.
In the past, I used to have a hard time attracting women.
Okay. So, and it was more of approaching women is what it was, wasn't it? So in the past, you used to have a hard time approaching women.
In the past, I used to have a hard time approaching women.
Okay. So this is crucial and extremely important. And I know that maybe if you're listening to this call right now and you haven't tried this, I wouldn't doubt and I wouldn't be surprised if you're a little bit skeptical about this. But try to write down 5 things that you believe are holding you back. Write them down. You don't have to do them all right now, but you can do it as soon as this call's over. Write down 5 things that are holding you back. And I want to go through and I want to, one at a time, get rid of these things essentially and make it so that these things that you thought were holding you back are now in the past tense for you. Now, what this does, Brett, and to everyone else who's on the call right now, is it allows you for a moment, even if just for a brief moment, the possibility of getting over this. Now, if you always say, I have a hard time approaching women, then what happens is your brain hears that and it confirms that that belief is true. So then when you try to approach a woman, it throws up all these emotional things telling you shouldn't be doing this. Like approach anxiety, like sweaty palms, like absolute fear, like someone's about to attack you and kill you fear, all of these different responses, lightheadedness, loss of what to say. You have no idea what to say. These are all concepts that are based on a belief system. And whenever you step outside of that belief, your body tries to stop you from doing it. And the reason why is because it's a survival mechanism. If you believe that, someone who has a gun is dangerous, that's a belief system, then when someone pulls up a gun in front of you, your body reacts before you will. You'll automatically get nervous because you'll see things are at a level at which you could lose something. These are at risk. And so you'll automatically react in a way that physically, your body physically starts to change. You start to feel that anxiety and everything like that. Now, Brett, the most powerful thing you could think in general, and I would highly suggest this. This is my number one fix for approach anxiety. If any guys on this call have ever had a hard time approaching women that you didn't know, especially attractive women, then this is the thing that is the number one cure for it. And I've been through this a lot, and I have taught this a lot, and I've seen it work, and I've had it work for me as well. You have to approach everyone, not just attractive women that you think are out of your league or women that you'd like to be with that you think are within your league. You have to approach everybody that you're curious about. And the reason why is because if you tell yourself and believe that that you approach women that are just because you're curious about them, that are interesting, regardless of whether or not they're attractive, and you do that in your real life, meaning that if you see an old woman and she's walking down the street and she's got a funny looking hat on, you might go, "That's a funny looking hat. Where'd you get that hat?" And just start talking to her. Now what this will do is it'll immediately reframe your belief in why you're approaching women in the first place. So instead of only walking up and talking to women that you're attracted to, which when you do that, your body goes, "Holy shit, there's a lot to lose here. Don't screw this up," or you don't normally do this and you've never been successful. Maybe this is the one time it's going to be different. And all of a sudden you need that interaction. You need it to go well, and which of course screws everything up immediately because neediness kills attraction. So instead of going through that, your body will have a response of he'll have this response. Instead of, "Oh my God, what are you doing? This is not normal. You're going to screw this up." Then I have a response of, "Oh, he's talking to another person just like he talked to that old lady earlier." And this is when approach anxiety sort of gets defeated and it disappears. It's really difficult to try to get rid of approach anxiety without going through this one phase, this one step. And that sort of reframing step is one of the most important stages. Now, if you had, Brett, if you just resolve to and sort of make a decision to from now on put that statement alone in the past, always. Now, in our coaching calls following up here, Brad and Joe are going to make sure that you do this. That when they talk to you, that if you say that something was bad, that you're bad at, they'll say, you mean in the past, and you'll have to reframe that for yourself. So we'll help you reframe this, because it takes a lot of teamwork and a lot of efforts from your friends to help you get past your own barriers. And that's sort of what the Founding Members Club is all about. So we're here to help you do that. But if you could, Brett, just make a resolve, make a promise to yourself and to us that you're going to, like starting right now, you're putting that statement, at the very least, that statement in the past. Can you do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. And that's, I had taught this concept to a client of mine. It was a high-end client in New York. And I met up with him, and I just listened to him talk for a while, and I just heard, I don't know, maybe 20 things that were just horrible that he said about himself, like just terrible things. And I was like, okay, look, I'm just going to teach you one concept today, and I'm going to let you go, and I want you to tell me how it worked tomorrow. And he goes, he's expecting me to teach him something like, look into her left eye, something really tiny that he could do. But what I said was, I want you to say everything you just said, but I want you to put it all in the past, and I want you to continue to do that until tomorrow when I talk to you again. And he goes, okay, I thought it was kind of weird, but he's like, all right, whatever, you're the expert. So I told him, and I listened to him say everything that he just said to me and put it all in the past. And the next day he called me up, and he was just so excited. He's like peeing his pants on the phone, like just couldn't even talk. I was like, oh, slow down, what happened? And he's like, well, look, I started saying that, and for the first time ever, I walked up to a woman. I know she's way out of my league. I was like, let me just try it out. And I walked up, and I didn't even do anything different. In his mind, he didn't, at least, do anything different, but everything worked this time. It was as if everything that he was trying before was magically breaking, and now it was magically working again, And it's sort of beyond your conscious ability to be able to understand why this works. But if you can do this, you will see amazing results from this, just this one concept alone. And you will be able to understand confidence and actually experience confidence when you walk up to women a lot more. And I have a lot of other things to go over here too today, but that's one of the major concepts I wanted to get into. Thanks, Brett, for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the next caller that was up here, and then I'm going to move on. I'm not sure your name here, so I'm going to just unmute you and ask you. Are you there? Looks like you're in El Monte, California. Anybody there?
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear me? Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your name?
I can hear you. Hello?
What's your name? You're cutting in and out here quite a bit. I'll give you one more chance here, and then I might have to cut it out. What's your name here?
Albert.
Albert. Hey, all right, I got it. Albert, good. I'm not sure if there's an issue with our link or connection or whatnot, but you can go ahead and. Oh, okay. Well, why don't we do this? If it does cut out, guys, if you do want to ask a question and you don't want to get on the line and talk, you can also go to facebook.com /the Tao of Badass. And you can go right on there and ask your question straight on there. I'll be looking at it during this, looking at the wall on that page during this call, so I can answer your questions on there too. So I just wanted to reach that out. So Albert, you said you had a couple of sort of negative things you were saying about yourself, and I wanted to hear what they were so I could sort of help you break those down and maybe understand them a little better. Is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, cool. So what would you say is your biggest sort of walls that you're hitting with women?
Well, it's like I'm in college, and I quit a frat, so I'm no longer a frat. And it seems like at my school, it seems like women tend to only go for the good-looking ones, and the cool ones tend to go for the frat boys and the lax bros, which, being in a frat, I feel like I'm having a disadvantage. And on top of that, I'm Asian, which, I've noticed that, even though I'm a cool guy, a lot going. It sometimes feel like that too.
You're cutting out here a little bit in El Monte. Sorry, what was the last thing you said, Albert?
Well, basically, I was to say that, I know I'm a cool guy. I'm not in the frat. It seems like it's also on top of that being Asian, it seems like holding me back from getting some of the hottest girls at school.
Okay.
what I mean?
All right, so you have two major beliefs. One is that the attraction. So so right in the middle of everything, Albert, you're kind of in the middle of a shitstorm right now. That's what college is, really. I mean, it's like it's the most confusing shit in the universe besides middle school and high school, you know. And the reason why is because you're in sort of a micro environment, a micro community. It's hard to look outside of the college area and see, you know, potential women and things like that as well. And it's really easy to look around and compare yourself to all the guys that you're with. And you said you're not in a frat, or you are in a frat house?
I'm not.
You're not. Okay, so I never was either. And in fact, I think that's probably one of my better qualities is that I wasn't. No offense to anybody who's in a frat here, obviously, but yeah. So I never was in a frat house, and so the belief currently that you have that's sort of holding you back is that that being Asian is actually hurting your chances with women, and then B, not being in a frat or not being like the cool guy or whatever is sort of hurting your chances with women. Is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Right. Okay. So here's sort of the first question I have to ask you. Has any Asian man ever been successful with women?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Of course. Right? And actually, I know a lot of amazing guys who are amazing with women who are Asian. So I know that, first off, that's not true 100% of the time. So maybe there's something else. Maybe you mean, instead of just being Asian, it hurts your chances. Maybe that you mean that in your case, maybe it seems that it seems to be hurting your chances, but it doesn't hurt every Asian man's chances. I mean, I would guess, because I know lots of guys. For example, I don't normally name drop on this stuff, but does anyone here, I don't know if you do or not, but have you ever heard of a guy named DJ Fuji before?
Wait, say it again?
Have you ever heard of a man named DJ Fuji?
No, I have not.
Okay, so he's a friend of mine, and he's another coach as well, and he's not really a DJ, by the way. I don't know why. I think his first name is DJ. But he is probably one of the most successful guys I've ever met with women. Now, he's not like over the top loud. He's not a dancing monkey. Like, he doesn't do tricks or anything like that. But he is probably one of the coolest guys I've known, and gets women that, that I would be like, I'm like, damn, dude. Any guy who gets a woman like that is amazing. And he is fantastic. And I think a lot of his students look at him and realize for the first time that, that it doesn't matter. For some reason, women don't care about that with DJ Fuji. They don't care that he's Asian. A lot of his students are Asian as well, and women just don't care. They seem to look past it. Now, what does he have that you don't have? And I'll tell you what that is. First off, he uses the concept of being Asian to his advantage. I mean, he has these sort of he's not even, I think he's from like Boston or something. He's not from anywhere in Asia at all. But he uses the concept of people have an association with Asian men and style, like dressing well. Mm-hmm. And so he uses this massively to his advantage. So he has these different styles that make him almost undefinable. Like, he'll have a giant blue mohawk, and then he'll wear a suit, with a giant blue mohawk. So he's got all these different sort of ways of using this to his advantage. For example, Albert, just to kind of give you one of my major hiccups that I had with my belief systems when I was growing up. I grew up in a trailer park, and needless to say, I wasn't very popular. People didn't really dig trailer park kids. I don't think they dig them anywhere. I think the only famous trailer park kid besides, I'm marginally known, is Eminem. He grew up in a trailer park, and it's not a very desirable thing. So when I was growing up, even until I got much older, I always thought that women, it was only a matter of time before they realized that they could date some rich dude, And what I found out is that when women met me, I didn't have like a sign on my shirt that said trailer trash, and I felt like I did, and I felt like whenever people talked to me, even after I told them, I thought that they were going to judge me, but people just didn't. And so what I had to do is I had to realize that I was wrong about that first off. And there was something going on there that was sort of holding me back. So with you, your two concepts, one is that you're not in a frat, and one is that you're Asian. So the first thing I'd like to, because we obviously know that It's not just being Asian because there are Asian men that are successful with women. It's something else. It's in your behavior, but you're not letting yourself become the attractive person you want to be because you believe that, it's Asian. It's the Asian thing that's holding you back and not your personality. So you're not even letting yourself get to the next level with this. Because you can't, look, man, you're not going to be not Asian anymore. You're always going to be Asian. And that's a good thing. You have that going for you. That's something you have good that's working for you. Don't try to change it. Don't be ashamed of it. The only thing that can happen if you try to change it is that you'll come across as insecure to women. And I'm willing to bet that 90% of your success with women is going to come on you owning your past, owning your history, owning where you came from, like really becoming a part of it, integrating with it, and like talking about it as if it's not a big deal. Right now, if someone came up and they identified you, like they identified me as a white guy or you as an Asian guy, if someone does identify you with that, you have to assume that that's a good thing. Because if you don't assume that's a good thing, it's going to screw everything up that you do from then on out. Basically, everything at that point is going to be like, well, as long as she, she'll hang out with me as long as there's no one else around, or as long as her friends aren't there, or as long as there's not another option. Like, for example, a frat dude, who you're saying. So, you have to honestly believe that you are the most attractive person in the room. And if people don't understand that and they don't get it, then that's their fault, right? Now, the reason why I say that is because you have two choices, really. You have a choice of believing that you're unattractive or a choice of believing that you are attractive. Believing that you're unattractive absolutely hurts your chances. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. A super attractive guy who believes he's unattractive gets less ass than a guy who is super attractive and believes he is. Everyone knows this. It's kind of been proven over time. When Brad Pitt first moved to Hollywood, he couldn't get a date to save his life. Brad Pitt. Sexiest man in the world, like 8 years in a row. He just couldn't get a date. Why? Because he had no confidence whatsoever. He didn't think he was attractive. And, of course, women, disagree with that now. But at the time, every woman agreed. They didn't think he was attractive. Why? Because he didn't think he was attractive. This is kind of the most amazing sort of loophole in attraction in general, is that if you just act as if you are attractive, then women will be more attracted to you. And the truth is that you don't know, Albert, what an attractive guy looks like because you're not gay. And that's just kind of how it is. I don't think you're gay. Maybe you are, but I'm joking. I'm pretty sure you're not.
No.
I'm going to go on record here. This is
why would I be here if I was gay?
Maybe you want to learn how to pick up dudes. I don't know. No sense. Anyway, obviously you're not. You're a straight guy, and you just don't know what an attractive man looks like. You don't know what women look for in men. Now, we think we do as guys. We think we know, but we don't. We don't know. And so that's one of the biggest problems is we run into this, well, she wouldn't think I was attractive because I'm Asian. Dude, you have no idea what she thinks is attractive in the first place, And that's okay for now. And you will learn more about that, obviously, but I would tell you right now that most of it is in whether or not you think you're attractive. If I had 5 minutes to teach a guy how to be attractive with women, I would tell him, just act as if it's already working. Just act like women already like you. That's it. Just pretend like women already like you and everyone's attracted to you. Because immediately it will double their chances with women because they're not blowing themselves out. They're not rejecting themselves essentially when they walk up and talk to women. It's really difficult, Albert. It isn't like you're the first and only guy who's ever had this problem before. I had this problem.
Yeah.
And I have my own excuses for you've got the I'm Asian or I'm not a frat dude. I even built a pretty strong anger for frat dudes for a while when I was younger because I was they get all the women and it's not fair, And I just I started judging them and I found myself being kind of a dick. And that wasn't really fair to them. There were a lot of really cool guys that I met that were in frat houses that were nice and really cool to me. But I didn't give them a chance or anything, so that wasn't really fair of me. And I ended up basically saying any woman, and I remember this exact moment the last time I thought this. I was working at a gas station in Tallahassee, Florida, and Florida State University is there. It was the number one party school of the year whenever I lived there. It was the Girls Gone Wild school of the year, too. So there's all these blonde, crazy girls there, And it was, I was sitting at the gas station working, and this blonde girl walks by, hot blonde girl. And I look over, and my immediate thought, and I'm not kidding, was, she's probably dumb as a sack of bricks. Like, she's probably a fucking idiot. I'm judging this woman. And what I really wanted to think was, damn, she's hot. But I couldn't even think that, because I knew that if I thought that, I'd have to admit that I wasn't going to talk to her and admit that I wasn't attractive as a guy. You know, and this is things that I really thought. I really thought. So if I can get over this, then for fuck's sake, man, you can get over it for sure. Because I would say that from now on, you're going to have to put that you used to think that women didn't like you because you were Asian. You're going to have to put that in the past. Absolutely. And then the other thing is that you used to think that women were more attracted to frat guys than they are to you, but that's just not the case. You know? So I would write both of those things down. And over the next week, I would make a point of writing down anything else that you say, any shit talking you give yourself, anything that's mean or not, or just anything that's negative in general, not even mean, just negative. Even if you think it's true, if it's negative at all, just write it down and then make a point to put all those things in the past moving forward. And over the next week, I guarantee you over the next week, if you do this, if you really truly do it, Albert, you're going to see such an increase of attraction, women looking at you, you know, like watching you walk down the street, women having a positive response to you when you walk up to them, women engaging with you longer and talking to you longer, giving you their numbers or saying yes when you ask for their number. You know, you don't have to have everything down yet. You don't have to have all the techniques down yet, but you do have to have this down before you can move forward. So over the next week, before the next call with one of my coaches, I want you to write down any kind of shit talking that you give yourself, including these two things, and I want you to put these in the past in normal conversation. Like if you're talking to someone and you realize you're about to say, oh, you know, I'm really bad at baseball, you know, whatever it is. You might say, I'm really bad at soccer, whatever. Then instead of saying that, just go, I used to think that I was really bad at soccer, but I should probably give it another try and see, you know? Or, I used to be really bad at soccer, but I've been working on it and I'm better than I used to be, you know? So you're better now than you ever have been in your entire life. The truth is you're more attractive today than you ever have been because you didn't have this knowledge yesterday, you know? And you didn't have the day before that either. And the day that I realized that women are attracted to what's in my brain and not what's written on my face or what I'm wearing, you know, or what I look like, was a really great day. Because I thought I was a pretty ugly guy, you know. I got a receding hairline that reaches my back, basically. You know, I feel like there's lots of things that are wrong with me. I'm really, really skinny. I just had so many stupid things. Like I said, grew up in a trailer park. All these things I thought were going to hurt my chances. And they were hurting my chances because I was letting them. So I started doing this, and it was one by one. I just tackled one by one. And I started attracting much, much more attractive women. Does that make sense, Albert?
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense. That's another question. Like, I guess it's sort of like, I'm pretty aware of it. You know, I've been watching the hacking attraction videos, and I've also been watching, you know, some of your advanced prep, like coaches prep course things, and it's helped a lot. I'm actually learning a lot more about myself than I used to know, and I wish there was an actual class on this stuff in school for crying out loud, human classes.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's like the most obvious thing in the world. Why wouldn't they do this? It's important, you know? They have they have a history of Mongolian architecture. They should have this class. You know, come on, what the hell?
Mm-hmm. But another question that kind of arises that, you know, I guess, you know, I'm seeing progress. I'm seeing, you know, I can sort of see progress. You know, I know these beliefs have been hurting me. You know, they've always been hurting me. They've been dogging me. You know, I try not to let them. But I just gotta keep working on these things. But I guess, you know, I guess I tracked a bit more. I'm getting numbers. I'm getting more consistent. I'm getting better. I'm getting dates. But it seems like I'm just not keeping women around. Is there like?
You mean in the past? In the past, you were having a hard time keeping women around.
Yeah, I just seem to have a hard time keeping women around, like sustaining attraction. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it gets too much. Right? I end up getting too many female friends. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, Albert, do you realize you're doing this right now as we're talking? You're saying you have a hard time keeping women around, and you're putting it in the present tense. Do you realize you're doing that?
Oh shit.
Yeah, this is exactly how it's gonna feel to you. You must do this a lot to yourself, a lot more than you think you do. So you're basically realizing that oh shit moment you just had is you reaching the next level here. So welcome to that. And also, keeping women around. I can tell you about this right now, briefly, and then I'm going to go on to the next caller here because I have a couple more calls and a couple more things to go over. Yeah. We're already at an hour in, but I'm going to make this a little bit longer than normal because you guys are awesome. To keep women around, you have to understand the entire matrix. You have to see the matrix of the map of interaction. So essentially, if you walk up to a girl and you start talking to her and you start to see her body language and reacting to you in a certain way, and you don't know what that means, what stage you're in, you can't possibly push forward. And what a lot of guys do is they think that once they have gotten past attraction and they go into rapport, they never have to go back to attraction again with this woman. And that's not true. That's not the case. Every time you interact with her again, sometimes if she walks away for 2 minutes and comes back, she'll come back in attraction. It's like a washing machine. Like she leaves in rapport and she comes back in attraction, you know? And you're like, shit. But when you see it and you know it's there and you know what's happening, you know how to react. If she comes back in attraction and you try to go into rapport with her, guess what? She's going to split. And she always will. Because she'll look at you and she'll realize that you don't understand where she's coming from in that moment. So you have to do what's called seeing the matrix. You have to be able to look at a woman and tell what stage of the interaction you are in with her right then. And I'll tell you one easy way to do that, Albert, and this might sort of help you out a little bit. And also, if you're sort of having a lot of female friends, you're not pushing forward because I believe that's probably the Asian thing. Like that Asian belief that like, oh, you're their Asian friend now. And not like, their Asian boyfriend or their Asian hookup, or it doesn't matter. You can put Asian in front of anything awesome and it'll be cool still. You can be their Asian hookup, who cares? Or their Asian boyfriend, who cares? But just being their Asian friend is crappy, If you want to move forward with that, then from the very beginning, I'd say it's probably the most important. I just shot a video, recently, Albert. If you haven't seen it yet, have you seen the How to Get Out of the Friend Zone video I shot, Albert?
I've not seen the How to Get Friend Zone yet.
Okay, so I think I can tell you the link.
Hey guys, welcome. I'm Brad, one of the Tao of Badass coaches. I'm here with Josh.
Yo, what's up, guys?
So, first off, it's awesome that you guys are here.
I went through a lot to get here. We've been having some issues with our email client, so we've emailed everybody like 10 reminders, and apparently none of them went out, so we had to push the date back to today, so I'm glad you guys could make it.
Yeah, especially the people that I see, the guys that are here from last time.
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking around.
And we have a call recorder now. It's working, so
yeah,
we fixed a lot of bugs. But anyway, so this last call that we had, we went over some really, deep-rooted, confidence-based concepts and mindsets to get into. I wanted to go over with Brad just kind of, just an overview of what we went over last time, and then I wanted to sort of open the floor to anybody who had any questions implementing what we've been sort of going through this past, I guess it's been like a week and a half now, since you've had the last one. If you do want to talk at all about anything, if you have a question, if you want to just bring something up, if you want to share something at all, then all you have to do is press *2 on your phone, and you will be able to raise your hand, so to speak, on here, and I can see that you press *2, and I can select you and unmute you individually. That way that we don't have, everyone's background noise going all at one time. Though we can do that too, whatever. Everyone's in a quiet spot. But ultimately, if you have a question, *2 is what we want to press, and it'll raise your hand, and I'll be able to, Brad will be able to unmute you, and we can sit there and talk to you about anything you've been through. So, Brad, I wanted to know if you could just sort of really briefly go over just the major points that we talked about. Then we'll swing back around and we'll go into depth in each one of them, and just sort of talk about some of the concepts that we had mentioned last time, so in case anyone missed anything. And I have a couple things that I thought of since that I think are going to be really helpful as well. So why don't you go ahead and go into that there?
Cool. So basically we were really focusing on the idea of like reprogramming your beliefs, and that's basically the concept of taking advantage of the way your brain works naturally, and taking being conscious of what you say, because what you say out loud really programs what you believe.
Right.
So
I think that the key on that point is that you have, some people would look at your brain as being, not yours, Brad, but just in general, as being very defective in certain ways. And when we have old ideas and old concepts and old patterns that have never evolved as we've evolved as a species into humans. And so some things like your reptilian brain is still there. It's at the base of all the rest of your brains. You have reptilian brain, your mammalian brain, which is like your mammal, nurturing brain. And then you have your human brain, or your cerebral brain on the outside. And the cerebral brain is sort of a brand new thing that's made us different than everyone else, every other animal on the face of the planet. So having that sort of outer shell that allows us to simulate environments is what's made us made us excel so much. But at the same time, we still have these old patterns that have gone through over time. For example, when you're little, you learn to look both ways before you cross the street. Why do you learn to do that? Well, because if you don't, then you will die. Essentially, you do it so that it's a survival mechanism. So what we do is we, over time, we start to go, someone says, hey, there's a street coming up, look both ways before you cross the street, over and over and over and over again. And it sort of burns into your mind so that eventually you walk out to the street and immediately, without thinking, you look left and right. Now, why is that important? Because your survival mechanisms need to be on autopilot. Every other animal has survival mechanism as their main focus. Their survival is their main focus. But we're the only species, no, it's not, I can't say that. We're one of very, very few species of animals that survival is not our main focus. We have other things, social environments we have to process. So it's really powerful to have these autopilot responses in certain areas of your life, like looking both ways before you cross the street, but really inconvenient to have them across the board all the time. Like, for example, if you walk up to a woman you don't know, she's going to slap you, right? That's a thought maybe you might have in your head, but if it's not actually true, it's a pattern you created, it creates the same kind of emotional response every time, and you're part of a loop at that point. And it's sort of an infinite feedback loop, and you can't push forward. So that's sort of we build on these limitations of our mind, but we also have loopholes that we can use in that process. So if you know that your mind works that way, where you can create a pattern and your body starts to react to that neurological pattern, then you know that you can hack it. Anytime there's a system, you can hack the system to work better. And that's essentially what we're talking about here, is learning how to understand how your brain works, and then learning how to hack it so that you actually have more power and more confidence, and going out you have a better chance of walking up to a woman you don't know, standing there looking sexy and saying something that makes her laugh or smile and want to know you more, want to know you better, rather than saying something that makes her roll her eyes and turn around and then eventually turn back around again and ask you to leave, And those are two obviously very extreme, dichotomy sort of situations. So,
and just the fact that you're even here interested in learning how your programming in your brain works, and then how to hack that, you're going to have an extreme advantage over everyone else, because most people are, I think in general, just operating on their patterns and their instincts, I guess.
Right, they're sort of slaves to the patterns.
Yeah.
And the whole point of being sort of a badass at this is to break that pattern. Not just to stop, not to stop the pattern from happening necessarily, but to break its grip on you and start to control it instead of it controlling you. I had a friend once, this is a long time ago, maybe 15 years ago now, which sort of dates me a little bit, but I had a friend of mine who said one time, he explained it this way, he was studying Buddhism, and he sort of brought me into the world of Zen really early on, and he said, and it wasn't a religious thing, by the way, I just want to put the disclaimer out there, he never tried to say anything religious to me, I was not raised that way or anything, so He never tried to push it on me or anything. But he did say something really, really important, and I thought was really amazing, and that was that he said, your emotions are like your children, and you can't walk into a grocery store and let your kids rip everything off the shelves and run amok. You know, they have to be disciplined. And just like your children need to be disciplined, not just like, you don't want to beat them when they do stuff wrong, because that'll only make them not do stuff wrong when you're there. And you want them to want to help you. So, and the way that you do that is you keep them under control. You don't let them just run wild and run crazy. You don't say, well, I want that, so I'm going to pitch a fit until I get it. You know, your emotions have to work with you. And that's very important, and he didn't realize how much of a psychological truth that was when he said it, because your emotions are the language that your subconscious mind speaks to your conscious mind. That's how your subconscious mind communicates to your conscious mind. So what he really meant by that, which he didn't really notice at the time, I don't think, is that if you can control your subconscious mind and keep it in order, then, and you know that because your emotions are a direct indicator of how your subconscious is working, then your conscious mind will be the one in control. Your subconscious still holds all the power. Don't kid yourself there. Your subconscious is the most powerful tool you have. But if you can control it somewhat with your conscious mind, then you can begin to shape it and move it in a direction. You can use that power. You can alter the direction of that power, and you can point it whichever way you want. So, again, we're going to go over in a little bit more detail some of the things we talked about before, some sort of actionable things, and I want to bring up a couple of things that we didn't talk about last time, just to kind of bring them out there, and then I'd like to open it up to people if they have any questions. Again, if you do have any questions and you want to sort of be first in line for when we start getting all the questions coming in, because sometimes there'll be a ton of questions and I won't be able to get to all of them. If you want to be first in line, just press *2 now or soon, and let us know that you have a question, and we'll be able to, when it comes time to open up the lines, we'll be able to call on you first and get you in. So anyway, Brad.
And if you think you might forget that question by the time we ask them, you should teach them the anchor.
The anchoring technique. So I have a really bad memory, and this has sort of helped me and hurt me over time. It's helped me because I never tried to remember anything, pretty much. So I learned some techniques around how to memorize stuff without actually memorizing it, and it's really impressive to people, but also very bad because I'll talk to a girl, and as soon as she says her name, I literally 4 seconds later I'll have no idea what her name is. It's really bad. So I've had to learn how to, and I would interrupt people because of that, because I didn't want to forget what I had to say, because I had a bad memory. So here's what I did. This actually works really well. If you have a piece of paper in front of you, write your question down. Hands down, that's the best thing to do. But if you're talking to somebody and you have a bad memory like I do, then what I do now, which actually works, the guy who taught me Myers-Briggs, all the Myers-Briggs stuff that I know, he's the one who taught me this technique as well. And basically what you do is you think of your question or whatever you want to say, and then you cross your fingers into like a little X. Like you'd ever cross your fingers. You cross your fingers, and then you look at your fingers for a second, and you think about your question, and then just forget about it. But keep your fingers crossed and keep them kind of down. And it's amazing how this works. I totally didn't believe this would work. And then 15, 20 minutes later, lift your hand up and look at your fingers, and you'll remember your question. It's amazing. And then when you uncross them, it'll go away. And the reason why that is because you actually have a visual anchor for thoughts. Visual scent is another one. It's your olfactory sense. Usually any of your senses. Touch. These are all used within the Tao of Badass system as well. You use the concept that whenever you're building rapport with someone, if you build rapport and touch at the same time, then it anchors that trust and that connection to you touching them. So then every time you touch them, they feel safe, right? They feel like they can trust you. And this you can use the same thing on yourself. It's one of those loopholes that we have that our bodies have never really figured out how to get rid of. And we've never been able to overcome it, but we also have never been able to fight it either. So it's very, very powerful. So I'm definitely try that out. If you can't write that down, just cross your fingers and think about the technique, and then later on, this call's done, look at your fingers and you'll remember it. But ultimately, yeah, if that's just a side note.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's kind of a small hack there.
So I guess the biggest thing that we really talked about was how the street of conscious and unconscious goes both ways, and while your unconscious mind has powerful effect on conscious thought, you can also program your unconscious with your conscious.
Right. Well, you have you're sort of. And this is something I learned from the Dale Carnegie course that I took. I didn't take a active course. I actually learned under a mentor, and one of the biggest things that he taught us was that we had your conscious mind is like the programmer of your subconscious, or your unconscious mind, and that means that anything that you see, say, experience in life, and that you decide has happened a certain way, will immediately shape what your subconscious believes is possible or believes is actually happening. Now, let's take this in the realm of actually meeting women, right? So let's imagine, and I actually have a little section in the book in the Tao of Badass on this topic directly. But let's imagine for a moment that you had, you're walking down the street and you believed that you were not attractive, right? So that's a subconscious belief. Something deep down that you believe. Any of your beliefs are subconscious. And what you do in the beginning is it's not a subconscious thing, it's a conscious thing. You're looking around, you're going, am I unattractive? And then from whatever source you think that the answer is yes, no matter what the answer really is, you think it is. And so you observe it with your eyes or with your ears or whatever it is that you're experiencing, and then you submit it as a belief immediately, so it becomes subconscious. So now it is controlling things that you do. That belief is. So whenever you experience something after that, it takes an enormous amount of new experiences and new information, and lots of convincing to be able to show you that may not be true anymore. Even if you are the most attractive guy in the world, you wouldn't even know it. And this actually happens to a lot of women, a whole lot of women. Really, really hot women usually were not growing up as really, really hot kids. They weren't always really attractive. In fact, most of the kids that are really attractive younger, like maybe between the ages of 12 and 16 or so, and that really impressionable age, as they get older, because they're so accepted by everybody, they sort of lose touch on how to communicate, and then they let themselves go because they lose friends and they get depressed, and so then they lose their attractiveness, their physical attractiveness as well. So most of the women who are attractive now were not attractive when they were younger, meaning that. And they don't ever say this to anybody. So knowing that, you can walk up to a girl who's really hot, and you know that she's probably a dork somewhere inside of her. Somewhere in there she's a dork. She's a nerd, or she's a fat kid in a skinny kid's body. A skinny girl's body. So it's like there's something else there, something else going on. Now the subconscious, like I said, your conscious mind programs your subconscious mind. Let's imagine that you've already experienced that and you believe that you're unattractive. Okay, so you walk down the street and there's a group of girls walking towards you. Well, right as you walk past them, they all stop talking, and then as soon as they walk past you, they just start laughing. They start laughing like a bunch. If you believe that you are unattractive, then immediately you're going to feel like shit. You're going to feel like they're laughing at you, that you're not good enough. It's going to reinforce everything that you currently believe, right? You're going to say, I'm stupid, I'm never going to get a girlfriend, or girls don't like me, or even worse, those girls are bitches. I can't stand them, or I hate them, and you start lashing out in that way. And so that's what will happen. And you'll leave that interaction, further reinforcing what you believed before. Now let's take the exact same scenario. So the truth is you don't know what these girls are laughing at. That's the truth, right? So what we do is we make things up in order to be congruent with what we believed before. It's called consistency theory. So the idea is that we want to be consistent, and so rather than allow for any opportunity or any chance of anything happening to come in, we want to be consistent, and so we want to believe what we believe, and so everything that happens, we want to reinforce our current belief systems. So if we have really crappy old belief systems that have no business being in our lives, then we start to live that way, even though none of that stuff's happening. We start to think we're unattractive, even though there's lots and lots of evidence to the contrary. So let's imagine the same scenario, only this time you think you're hot shit. You think that you're just like the hottest guy in the universe. You're the same exact looking guy, right? And girls are walking towards you. You're walking down the street, and they pass you, and right as they pass you, they'll all start laughing. Well, if you think that you're hot, you're immediately going to be thinking they're laughing because they're nervous, not because you're ugly or stupid or they're laughing at you or anything like that. And this is one of the biggest shifts that I experienced whenever I started integrating this belief creation model into my life, is that I started assuming every girl thought I was hot. So I assumed every girl wanted to sleep with me. I assumed every girl was attracted to me. I assumed all that, always, all the time. Now, something really interesting happened. I was wrong about 40% of the time. But I was right 60% of the time. So that meant that 60% of the people that I met, women that I met, actually were attracted to me. Because I thought that, because I was acting that way. That's what's interesting. So before, I kind of hold a truth to my life that about 40% of the time you're wrong in general. 40 to 20% of the time you're going to be wrong, no matter what your belief is. It's just going to be wrong in some certain circumstances. So if that's the case, if you believe that you're unattractive, that means about 40 or 20% of the time, someone's going to prove that wrong, right? They're going to be like, oh, someone likes you. Like, oh my God. Okay, cool. But if you believe that you're hot, 60% of the time, people are going to think that you're hot. And I found this to be true. Maybe even more than 60. Usually it's around 80% if it's a really crazy belief like that, So, like really big impact, belief like that. So what I found is that it's actually in your best interest just to think that everyone has the hots for you, in general. It's not, and it's in their best interest too that you think that, because what actually happens, the psychology behind when you walk past those girls, the psychology behind whether or not they're attracted to you is not in what they've seen already, it's in your reaction to what they do. So as soon as they start laughing, if they turn around and see you making yourself small and taking small steps and looking down, shrugging your shoulders up, just staring at the ground and trying to get out of there as fast as possible, then they're going to be unattracted. And if they laugh and they turn around and you're strutting and you turn around and you wink at them, they're all going to be attracted to you. And the reason why is because they've tested you in that moment to see how you react, and because your core belief system is sort of expressed always by your emotions, and your emotions control your body language, so they're reading your body language to figure out what your belief systems are. Because that's the truth, and because it's so easy to tell whether or not a guy is faking something, if you're a woman and you do this, women almost solely base their attraction on this concept. How does he react whenever I would normally make him feel nervous? How does he react? Does he try to make himself small? Does he try to get out of there? Or does he stand and go, well, she must think I'm hot? Even if you're wrong about that, it's better that you're wrong about that than you are wrong that you think she's not attracted to you. It's a tragedy to think that a girl isn't attracted to you when she is. And we had this conversation yesterday?
Yeah.
Yesterday. Where it's like we're talking about girls who, before we got into this and started studying, we'd find out a girl that we knew for 2 years that we saw all the time was attracted to us, and we never knew it, and we just didn't believe it. And we've all had that, really? You are attracted to me? That's crazy. I didn't know that, Yeah, I didn't know the whole time. She's like, oh yeah, a bunch of girls were. Oh wow.
And what's really funny is, you and they will try to think of external factors to attribute that to.
Right.
She said, did he lose weight? The girl that I'm thinking of,
Mm-hmm.
said, like, did you lose weight? And in fact, I had gained like 20 pounds since I last known her.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. Like, that wasn't it at all.
Yeah.
But in her mind, she was like, why is he even more attractive, I guess?
Yeah. And that's the funny thing is that, and this is sort of one of the things that I wanted to touch on today, is that women, and men for that matter, but since we don't care about men right now, let's just talk about women. Women don't know that this psychology has a grip on them. They don't know that whenever they when they get a feeling about somebody that's based on something very visceral and very psychologically backed, something that makes sense, something that is real to them, like actually affecting the way they feel, and it's all based on insecurities or confidences or patterns they recognized throughout their lives. Of course, personality types make that different. Certain people rely heavily on their memory. Certain people rely heavily on their pattern recognition. I'm a patterns guy. If you guys have ever taken a Myers-Briggs test, by the way, if you haven't, I highly suggest you do one online. It'll take you 20 minutes. If you do it and you post your results, I'll be able to go over everything with you and tell you what your superpowers are. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating stuff. I didn't know that there actually was a system to this, but once you do find out your Myers-Briggs type, you can find out what's called your flow state or your area of genius. And I had an area of genius that I never knew I had, and it makes sense now that I think about it. But I never could have pinpointed that on my own. Brad has his own area of genius. You have your own too, and that's something that we want to make sure we call out. So if you do that, I do have a link I can send everybody to do that test. But I'd like to actually put that in some kind of a forum or members area so we can all have that. We can do it anytime we want to. So anyway, I just hijacked your statement there, but ultimately we have to what you experience in your day-to-day life is, and how you interpret that experience is what shapes sort of how you approach women and how women approach you. So it's very, very important to get that shit under control, to make sure that your emotions are like your children. You're not letting them run wild and go crazy and knock everything off the shelves, screaming, stealing, and punching each other. I'm going to drop that analogy, metaphor. I guess that's an analogy. I said using like or as. Okay. So what's next on the agenda here?
Well, basically, a lot of that has to do with what you say. So, one of the big things, you have to be really diligent about saying the right kinds of things to yourself first, and then to other people. So, one of the biggest point that we talked about last time was this technique that Josh developed that, instead of saying like, I suck at something, you instead say, in the past, I thought that I wasn't good at whatever that thing is. So instead of saying, well, I'm really bad at basketball, say, in the past, I wasn't that great at basketball. So this is a very real way for you to be able to take it into your own hands to start to reprogram your subconscious. Because when you say it out loud, your conscious mind starts to program your subconscious. And so then, that you'll start to feel emotions connected to those things that you're saying, especially when it has to do with something that you've been struggling with your whole life or something like that. Like, I definitely can relate to the good-looking thing. I definitely never thought that I was good-looking, and it was only through the Tao of Badass, the system of reprogramming your beliefs, to where, I literally remember the conversation we had where you explained the system to me, and I said, I just have to try this. So I started to do it, and it just, I started to see things. The whole world was different to me after that. Like you said, when girls would giggle or do anything really in my presence, I would think like, well, did I do something wrong? And now I think, they're nervous. They're playing with their hair, or they're like, touching their clothes or whatever. They're like nervous because I'm standing around them. That's cute.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that statement of "that's cute" is kind of really powerful too. Or "she's cute." I've completely eliminated the word "hot," unless it's talking about me. Seriously though. Yeah. Or if it's just like a friend or something. I'm like, oh, she's hot, to a friend of mine. Oh, you want to meet her? She's hot, like that kind of thing. The reason why I eliminated that, especially while I was studying, I also eliminated the idea of giving girls numbers, like 8 or 10 or 9.
Right.
And I've done that before, but the reason why I eliminated it is because as soon as I stopped doing it, all the girls that I thought were out of my league all of a sudden started being interested in me. Well, this is really crazy psychology. It's really crazy to think about this, but it's true, and it worked, and I'll tell you why. It makes sense if you think about it. I was putting... Oh, how about this? What's a 10 to you? When you say that girl's a 10, what does that mean? It means it's someone you'd like to have, right? It's the ideal, right? The ideal. But if you say she's a 10, you're almost automatically presupposing that she's out of your league. Always. So she's a 10 means that she's too good for me. So does hot. Hot means too good for me, unless you've reframed it so that you deserve hot girls. Like you actually are dating lots of hot girls, and there's no one out of your league, and then you can actually reinstall that concept, reinstall the word hot. But forever, I've replaced hot or 10 or even sexy, I replaced with cute. I replaced all of them with cute. And when I started doing that, I stopped thinking to myself, oh man, she's so hot. I started thinking, oh, she's really cute. And then I have power over a cute girl. I don't have power over a hot girl, And that's the way I felt back then. I felt like if I can call this girl cute, maybe it'll reframe. But it was amazing how well it worked. I didn't think it was going to work that well. I thought it was just going to be like, oh, she's cute. That's cute, or I'd be lying to myself about it. But as soon as you stop using those words all together, hot and sexy and 10, or even 9 for that matter, or any numbers, really, to be honest, because you're basing all that stuff on looks anyway. And as soon as you start getting a lot of women, you realize looks is part of it and a very important part. But if you have 50 super hot women, you're not going to be choosing one based on looks anymore. You'll be choosing them based on their attitudes and their level of confidence or insecurity. So you have to take the whole package in here, and you can't give a number based on that if just by looking at her. And it's not that it's shallow. I mean, we're men. We're wired to look at a woman who's sexy and be like, damn, I want to be inside of that thing. And that's what we want. And there's nothing wrong with that wiring at all. That wiring has been there for a reason. But it does hurt you in certain circumstances, and these are some of these circumstances.
Well, it's really what we sort of societally have like layered on top of that, which is, it's more like saying a girl that you were with was hot is more, it's like more to brag to your friends than it is to yourself, I think.
Right, well, it's because it's a value thing. If you have a hot girl, it must mean that you're a valuable person. So what we end up doing is we end up trying to prove to ourselves that we're valuable by dating hot women, right? Not that there's anything wrong with that. But no, there is something wrong with that long term. But in the short term, it's not really that big of a deal. But it's not fair to them, first off. And if you really do believe that you deserve a hot woman, you won't be bragging about it to anybody. I have a friend. So there's this book called Double Your Dating, and written by a guy named David D'Angelo, and I know him, and he used to live not that far away from where I live, maybe a few blocks down from where I lived, and we've talked a few times. But I found out that he actually based that book off of someone else. So he started watching this other guy and started writing down what he did. And he would ask him questions. And then, of course, David started studying as well and doing things like that. But the thing that really got him was this one guy. His name was Christian. And he watched this guy like nonstop. Every little thing he did, he'd watch him. And I ended up becoming pretty close friends with Christian. And I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting that you're the guy that he based Double Your Dating on. And so I was listening to him, and this guy, I've never heard him brag once, but every time I talk to him, he's got a story about last weekend, right? Whatever weekend it is. And the last time I talked to him, he goes, and this is normal for him, so keep this in mind. He says, man, I was like, well, how was your weekend? And he goes, oh, it was crazy. I went to a bar, and I sat down just to have a drink, and this girl comes over, she starts talking, we start talking, and we start making out. And then another girl walks over. She sits down next to me on the other side, and I think they knew each other, so I started talking to her, and we started making out. And then the two girls and me are making out, right? And we're all just hanging out and drinking and making out. Then we left and we went to a strip club, and we go to the strip club, and 2 strippers sit down with us and start making out with me. So now these 2 girls from the bar plus these 2 strippers are all making out. And the bad thing is I woke up this morning and there was only one of them. And that was his story. His story was like, oh, well, I don't know how that happened. Where did I lose 3 women? Like that's his normal story. And so Christian, is a man who's been reframed. He's been reframed to believe that he's very, very attractive. And I know that because I know the way he talks. He doesn't brag about it. That wasn't bragging. That was just something that actually happened. In fact, I actually talked to him recently about how I'm able, how I could talk about myself without bragging, because he's really good at that. And he was simple. He had one sentence. And I forgot who he was quoting, but he said, if it happened, it ain't bragging. If it really happened, it ain't bragging. So I was like, okay, well, that's a good way of looking at it. But I was a little afraid to tell guys, for example, on one of my pages on my website, I have a note saying that I moved to a new city, and I had, within a month or 2 weeks, I had 4 girlfriends. That's not true. The truth is I had 7 girlfriends, but I just didn't think anybody would believe me, And I just, that's how it is. I don't think that guys are going to believe that that's possible sometimes. And I've experienced some pretty amazing things like that. But as soon as you let go of what you think is real, those things become possibilities, real possibilities, and they will really happen. I remember going through when I had boot camps. The whole point of a boot camp is to get a guy out of that reality and to have him step into a new reality that's really easy to attract women in. And the kind of stuff the guys are doing at the end of the boot camps is just mind blowing. Like they would never believe in a million years that they would be like, they would think it was normal that they went to a bar and made out with 2 girls. They just wouldn't think that there's no way you could have convinced them in the beginning that was going to happen. And so I think that a lot of the reason why that sort of sticks with us is because we want to believe our current beliefs. We don't want to get rid of them. And I don't think you should get rid of your core beliefs, but you do want to get rid of the things that don't really matter, your social beliefs, unless they're helping you, unless they're working for you and not against you. So one thing we talked about last week is we wanted to get you to go out with a few core beliefs, or a few social beliefs, a few ideas, and we wanted you to challenge those ideas and sort of create new ones. We wanted you to put your challenges in the past. We wanted you to say, in the past I used to have a hard time approaching women. Even if you have to, follow that with, and I'm better today than I ever have been in my life. I'm better today than yesterday, and I'm getting better every day, essentially. So it's not just about saying affirmations. This isn't Stuart Smalley, and it isn't Deep Thoughts with Stuart Smalley. But it is important that you focus on what you do want and not on what you think you're bad at, essentially. That's probably the best way to put it. So in order to truly be honest with yourself, you have to say, in the past, I used to be blank, or I used to have a problem with blank, whatever it is. That was one of the biggest things. So we want you guys to implement that. I definitely want to talk a little bit to a few of you about how that's affected you since last week. Now, not every month that we do this call, all these calls, is going to be inner game based, or like deep emotional or confidence based. Some are going to be technique based. I can't wait to get to my proposition bet call where I'm going over things different bets that I'd go in a bar with, and just like I'd use these basically bar tricks to be able to win drinks, and then I found a way to attract women while I was doing them. So, and I've never really taught anybody these because I used them as a crutch for a while, so I didn't want to teach guys to use them as a crutch. But they work so well. I mean, how could I not teach them? So we're going to get over a lot of that kind of stuff too moving forward. But I just wanted to let you know that this call here and the following call are going to be very much about deep inner game and changing your beliefs, your belief systems, and belief creation processes. So that was one was the unconscious or subconscious to your conscious mind, how they interact with each other. What's the next thing on our list here?
Well, we talked about how comfort relates to change or relates to growth in the process of building confidence and stuff like that. So basically, the best way to know that you're growing is to be putting yourself in situations that are uncomfortable.
Right, because we have, as a species, we evolved because we were uncomfortable. Essentially, this wasn't going to work, and so we had to create groups. We had to take it to the next level. We had to socialize and walk upright and things like that. Use tools. So what ends up happening is we're wired to grow when we're in uncomfortable situations and to be stagnant when we're comfortable. So in order to change your beliefs or your responses from women, in order to change how women respond to you, you have to change your comfort level. You have to actually become very uncomfortable all the time. I know it sounds nuts, but if you can get comfortable being uncomfortable, then you'll be mastering. You can master any skill you want then. So, and that's really what it boils down to. If you can keep yourself in an uncomfortable place and not freak out, then you'll constantly face your fears. You'll constantly lean into the pain, sort of. So if you see a hot girl and she makes you uncomfortable to think about walking up to her and talking to her, well then, if you're used to being uncomfortable, it won't matter, will it? You'll just walk up and talk to her. It won't be a big deal. Now, that pain, that sort of uncomfortable feeling will go away eventually, and at that point, you have to raise the bar. That's what we do. Anytime you get comfortable, raise the bar. When you get comfortable, raise the bar again, and again, and again, and again. And every time you do that, you can use that as a gauge to tell how fast you're growing and how fast you're getting good at this. Because otherwise, you won't be able to tell the difference. You'll look back and you'll go, well, I haven't gotten any better, because you're trying to be comfortable. This is not something you do in order to become more comfortable with women. You do this in order to master the skill or the art of attracting women. In order to do that, you have to reach into your discomfort and lean into that discomfort. A friend of mine, his name's Eric, but he's more well known as Hypnotica, actually. Hypnotica. And he is sort of one of the guys who taught everybody. You know, he taught Neil Strauss. He taught, again, my friend I was talking about earlier, David D'Angelo. He taught him. And so he just had a lot of different coaches that teach this stuff professionally have known at some point or learned from Hypnotica or Eric. And Eric has sort of taken the idea of making you uncomfortable to another level. He used to have students strap a dildo to their heads and stick it on their forehead, so the dildo is coming off the front of their forehead, and then have them walk up and approach women with this dildo sticking out of their head. So this is something that he really did, and these students were like scared shitless to do this. I mean, absolutely scared shitless. But his point is that you won't give a fuck anymore if you do that. You just will not care. You know, attractive guys are used to being stared at. If you want to be an attractive guy, you have to get used to people staring at you. People will judge you. People will be looking at you. But you know what? Oscar Wilde said this, and I think this is really brilliant. The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about. You know, only thing worse than being stared at is not being stared at. That's the only thing worse. No one cares, no one notices. That's worse than being stared at. And what you have to do is you have to be comfortable with women always looking at you, always looking at you. So he would take them to an extreme. He would make them wear a dildo on their heads and walk around and talk to and try to get women's phone numbers. Like, try to literally attract women. And by the end of it, you know, they may have only talked to 4 or 5 girls, none of them which would give them their numbers. But when they took the dildo off, all of a sudden, they're superhumans. They could walk up to a girl they never met before and be like, hey, let's go back to your place right now. And they'd be like, I don't know you. Maybe we should have a drink first. You know, okay, sure, let's do that first, and then we'll go back to your place. You know, and these guys were just blowing them. It was blowing themselves away. You know, the next day when all of like that stuff sort of wore off, and they're trying to get back in their comfort zone again. All of the powers went away. You know, but the power of being uncomfortable, especially early on, and you know, of course, coming into a boot camp is something that it makes people uncomfortable too. You know, which is one of the powers that happens during that process as well. Is that you're forced to be put into an uncomfortable... There we go, and we're back.
All right.
So, what are we talking about? I'm just kidding. So, ultimately, though, we want to, just to kind of tie a bow around that, I was getting to the end of it anyway, we want to make ourselves as uncomfortable as possible, as often as possible, because it forces us to grow. That's how it is. And like I said, if you find yourself just trying to be comfortable all the time, or trying to ease the pain of talking to women, you won't be able to move forward. You only get to a certain point, and then after that, you're gonna have to lie to women and to yourself, because you'll be trying to avoid pain. The only way to avoid pain is to pretend like you're somebody else when you're talking to women. Because then if they don't like you, it doesn't matter, does it? Because they don't know you. You know, and that's sort of what happens to a lot of guys who study this. So, anyway, that was my point. That was my point that Skype did not want me to say. But anyway, what's the next thing on our agenda here?
Let's see. That would be that change is the only constant.
Right. Okay, so essentially what that means is that the only thing that's going to be happening forever in your life, ever, is that things are going to be changing constantly. So you can only count on things changing. That's all you can count on. You can't count on anything else. So anytime that, you know, people, this actually is one of the number one reasons why that relationships fail. Because you get into a sort of comfort space and you don't want to grow because you're happy feeling the way you are. So you try to keep things the same. And then what's happening is, because you can't keep things the same, because change is the only constant, nothing else is the same, you know, day to day. Because you do that, you're still growing, you're just not growing together anymore. You're growing apart. And then eventually it becomes very apparent that you've grown apart, you know. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you focus as much as possible on making change and making improvement a part of your life. And in fact, that's one of the major ways to keep a woman from cheating on you or breaking up with you, is to constantly involve her in your growth and show her that you're growing all the time. This becomes the difference between the kind of guys that really, 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 really attractive girls date, like supermodels date, and the kinds of guys that average women date. Average women are not going to necessarily need somebody who's improving constantly because they don't know to look for that quality yet. But amazingly hot women, like supermodels, are going to know it because they've been through a lot of guys. They've seen patterns in these different men. They find out that one of the most important qualities is this desire to grow, this desire to learn, or desire to improve themselves.
Which we know is actually a desire to be uncomfortable.
Right, exactly. And that sounds kind of nuts, but it's the case. It's the truth. So if you focus on your desire to be uncomfortable and you try to put yourself in positions where you're uncomfortable all the time, you will automatically have a lifestyle that invites sort of attracting women, I want to know, by the way, I want to remind everyone, if you do have a question, and I'm about to open up the lines here in a minute to start answering questions, if you do have one, then press *2, and we can unmute you in a bit here. If you do want to get in the line for questions, there's already some people in line, so if you do want to get early on, go ahead and press *2 now, and we'll put you in line, and you can sort of reserve your spot. We have a queue here. We can see who pressed *2 first, so we'll unmute you one at a time and answer any questions you might have. So next, we went over a couple of little things. We went over, unfortunately, the recording got cut off right after this last time. So right before this, rather, last time, so it's important that I go over it again. But I wanted to go over the idea of similarity. Now, this is one of the 6 rules or laws of long-term attraction. This is another group of 6 laws that I had to create from psychology study because no one had known this until I created it. And essentially what it is there are 6 major laws that can't be broken, or rules that can't be broken to have a long-term attraction, not just short-term attraction. And one of them, and one of my favorites, probably one of the most powerful, is called similarity. People used to think that you were attracted to somebody who had similar interests, but that's not true at all. If that was the case, all you have to do is go to a hockey game, find a girl, and then make out with her because you guys like hockey, both of you, So there's no problem. Or it would be like this: "Oh my God, you are from Houston, Texas? Me too. Let's have sex." They'd be like, "Okay, that sounds great. I'm all of a sudden very attracted to you." Now I started to break down why it is that maybe Brett. By the way, I know you're from Houston, so I don't want to I wasn't directed at you. But I don't, and I wanted to break down why. Why is it that people think that that's the case? Why is it that people think that if you have common interests that you're going to hit it off, or you're going to be attracted to each other? Well, the reason why is because it's a rapport point. We think that someone who's experienced something similar to us or has a similar interest to us is going to have the same emotional association with that thing. And so we think that that person's going to like us because we both have this same emotional association. So if I start talking about it, I'm going to be able to transfer emotion easier because I'm going to say something and they're going to know that feeling. Like the feeling, if you've ever ridden a motorcycle, the feeling of riding a motorcycle on a freeway or down a country road, let's say, country road's even better, is amazing. It's amazing. Now, I can't explain it very well because I have very limited language, But if you've ridden a motorcycle down a country road before, I don't have to explain it to you. You automatically feel what I'm talking about right now. You feel that feeling. You go, yeah, I know exactly what you mean, And at that moment, I've transferred emotion to you. And that's rapport, right? That's why we think that people who have similar interests are people who we can connect with. People we think that women are going to be attracted to it. And we think that guys are going to be like, oh, you must be my friend then, Let's be friends since we have similar interests. Well, as guys, we're a lot more lenient with that. We go, oh my God, man, you're from this town, me too, man. We should hang out and have coffee, whatever, Or we should go. I'm going over here next week to go see this game. You should come out if you can. That's how we build trust. We build trust through these similar interests sometimes. But the reason why we do it is not because we both like that thing and so automatically we're cool with each other. It's because we think we're gonna have the same emotional association. If it was like, yeah, I'm from Houston, Texas. I hate that place. And if you love that place, you're gonna go, oh wait, we're from the same town, but now I don't like you. Or now I don't really care about you that much. It's just a disconnect. So whenever I found out about similarities, I had to redefine it essentially. And essentially what it means is we are attracted to people who have similar insecurity levels to us. Meaning that if you're very insecure as a man, you're going to attract very insecure women. Now, as you make improvements over time, you're going to be attracting more and more beautiful women. So as you improve yourself, the women you naturally attract will become more beautiful. Until you get to a certain point, after which you realize it's not about looks from here on out. It's about confidence in women. So it's about women actually being confident, about being mature or something, Your taste will change. Your taste in what you want in a woman will change. And because of that, you will, as you continue to sort of work on your insecurities and overcome those insecurities and your habits and whatever it is that you have that's really holding you back, and your fears, and you face these things, as you continue to do that, you're going to increase your level of women that you attract naturally. I've gotten to the point now where most of the women that I do attract, that are attracted to me, are very just sort of I don't even know how to put this really, gorgeous women, not like hot or sexy, nothing that can be faked, like something that is just like, actually gorgeous is a really dirty word, I just realized. Gorgeous, it's taken from the word engorge. Meaning to fill up, basically means you have a hard on. So that's what gorgeous means. So write that down, guys. But ultimately it's that level of like truly head to toe, inside and out beautiful, just all the way through. And I've had to work my way up to this point because I knew that at some point I was going to want this kind of woman. I was going to want the kind of woman that has everything that I want, And I was lucky enough to find one early on and build that rapport and really connect with her. I mean, I was lucky because, I don't know, she's amazing. I'm not going to say I didn't do it on purpose, because I definitely did. It was very conscious. But at the same time, sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes it's the wrong timing. And I was lucky to have the right timing with her. So it was perfect.
I'm going to guess that a lot of the guys are going to have sort of an like, oh shit moment when they think about what you said about that most of the girls you've dated have probably been at your insecurity levels at that time.
Oh, yeah.
That's the big thing to like stepping back and starting to see the matrix is looking back on your own experiences and being like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
And as you grow, and as you sort of integrate some of these concepts, you're going to be less attracted to those women. You're going to be more attracted to other women. And the funny thing is, as you become less attracted to those women will become more attracted to you. So now they'll see that you are growing, and they'll become more attracted to you because they think that you can take them to the next level. They're attracted to that value. As another one of the rules of long-term, or laws of long-term attraction, is called something important. It's called something very important. No, it's sort of a, actually the easiest way to explain it is sort of a student-teacher relationship, where one person is the one with all the value and the other person is the one who's learning, and this can happen men or women, it can be in either position. So essentially that can actually keep a relationship together, that idea that you're teaching someone something, only to the point where they have enough value to where they think that they're at the same level, and then at that point, since you haven't been growing, they leave, or you have to manipulate them to keep them down, which is terrible. So ultimately, my point here is that as you overcome your own insecurities, you will automatically and instantly attract more beautiful women. The end.
You'll
That's
level
how it
up.
is. Yeah, exactly. You do level up, and it'll make that noise. We need that Halo. Was that Halo level up noise?
Call of Duty.
Oh, Call of Duty, that's what it is. Yeah.
We'll get that for next time.
We'll play
Every
that.
time we have a breakthrough moment in the call.
Hit the button. We're going to have a soundboard here by the end of this. You guys, like whistles and fart noises.
Yeah.
You guys are going to love it. No, not really. You probably
Dingo
won't.
and the baby.
Yeah, Dingo and the baby. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the line here. I don't have everyone's names, and so I'm not going to say your name necessarily, but I will call out your city, and if I unmute you and I say your city, just go ahead and start talking. Or if I say the first few digits of your phone number, start talking, because I don't have some people's cities either in here for some reason. So, all right, I'm going to unmute the line for someone in Austin, Texas. He had his hand up pretty early on. Probably Francis or something, I'm guessing is his name.
There's only one in Austin, Texas.
So far, unless these are empty ones.
Well, that's true.
We don't really know. Ultimately, though, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now. Can you go ahead and say something?
Yes, this is Franklin.
Hey, oh, Franklin.
Hey.
Aha. Yeah. Okay. So all I have is Fran. So I was like, either your name is Franny or Francis or something, Franklin. So awesome, man. How you doing?
Good, great. So I had actually a different question, but from the first call, which I didn't join, but I listened to you guys have mentioned that at the end of that call you will mention probably the seminars you were gonna have, but then the call got cut to 1 hour and I could not hear. That was
you were listening to a recording, so you have no idea when it is. Okay. All right. So the first official in-person seminar that we're doing is actually going to be in mid-October. I have to get the exact dates to you a little bit later on this month, but in mid-October in Las Vegas. It's going to be very fun. We're going to be going out, of course, and hanging out. We're also going to be in class, and I'm going to be able to tweak everybody's movements. Of course, if you're on this call right now, you have free admission to that. So we just need to know. We have to have a commitment to it. I'll tell you how to sign up for it later. If we do have you put anything down, it's just to make sure that you're going to show up. If we do have you put some money down, we'll refund it. So it's totally free. I just have to make sure that if I don't want everybody to say we're coming, and then we get a 100-person room and 10 people show up. Ultimately. So yeah, it's free for you too, Franklin. So you can come out to that if you can make it to Vegas. Then you can come. Then if not, the beginning of the next year, we're gonna have another one, and then we have another one about middle or a little bit later in the year as well. Again, so they're gonna have 2 a year, and then also if you want smaller group coaching, we have those going on throughout the whole year as well. If you want to get your game on there and learn. So does that answer your question?
Yes, and one more because they're really quick questions.
Sure.
Then when I go to the website, you have my library, the advanced coaches per course, which I subscribe to, and then there is the Founding Members Club, and I don't see anything over there. Is expected that I will see those dates for any special information about.
If you go back by the end of the day today, that's going to be up. We actually had built this program and then didn't integrate it into our system yet. So we have that finished now. We're just going to throw it in. And by the way, if anybody's on this call, we are completely redoing the members area. Just so you know. We're going to revert back to something that's easier to understand, just have a straight form for a little bit, and then we're building up the members area again so that we have all the things that we need to have on it, because we started building it a while ago, and it's obvious that we've outgrown it now. So if you do have any issues with it, bear with us for now. We are going to have everything fixed, but that will have the dates for our calls on it. It'll have the dates for our events. You'll see a calendar in there. You'll be able to comment below the calendar as well, and go ahead and ask any questions that you want answered on the call.
We actually have that up right now.
We do have it up?
Yeah, it was in the email, the last email. That
okay, cool. So if you guys check your email, the last email that you got from Brad about this call tonight actually has a link to that calendar in it. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that link and put it in the members area. So anytime you want to, you can go in there and click. And we also have another link that we'll send out to you after this that is a download link for each call. So you'll have both of those opportunities to do that. We're completely redoing everything. Like I said, we're going to have ways for people to download videos, download audio only, watch a high-res or low-res version of a video, all this really awesome stuff. But it's going to take a little while to build. I'm not a programmer. I never pretended to be one. I don't even play one on TV. So I can't even fake my way through it. So ultimately, yeah, I would check up in there. If you have any other issues at all, feel free to email us and we'll walk you through how to handle stuff. But yeah, ultimately the Founding Members Club stuff, we announce every call beforehand a couple of times to everybody, and then the events as they come closer. And as soon as we open up registration for the events, we'll email all the founding members first, and then after we email the founding members, we'll email all the other members so that they can buy their seats, because those seats are expensive. They're $1,500 if you get in early and $2,000 if you get in a little later. So you'll be saving a lot of money if you just put something down and lock onto it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Franklin?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, cool, man. Thanks for joining us. I'm just going to mute you now for a bit. And if you have any other questions at all, you can go ahead and raise your hand again. Press star 2 if you have questions, guys. It's about that time where we start answering questions. So we have a couple loaded up here, ready to go. But if you want to be one of them, go ahead and press star 2 now, and we will be able to get to your question and talk to you if you have any kind of implementation of this different concepts that you've had over the past week and a half, and you want some feedback on, or if you have any comments, or you just want to say hey, or you want to sing us a song. I prefer that you didn't do that, but if you have to, just press star 2, and we'll unmute you in a moment here. I'm going to let Brad just real quick go over something that, and I just want to hear your version of this, Brad, because I know that we've talked about this a lot, and I know you understand it. But there's something called polar opposing insecurity compensation, and I know it's kind of a really technical thing to bring up right now, but I thought I'd touch on it one more time before we go into the next question.
I can give a basic version of
Okay,
it. You could give the more advanced one.
Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Sure. So the polar opposing insecurities compensation is basically, and you guys, like, as you start getting more familiar with this material, you're going to start seeing it everywhere. Like, it really is, seeing the matrix is not just something that applies to walking into a bar. It's going to be, you're going to see it in your friends, your family, yourself sometimes, and it's just crazy, like, to be able to recognize and isolate these things. So basically, it comes from a very, deeply rooted insecurity, and how it manifests itself is that somebody who is worried that people perceive them as, for example, meek, will intentionally spend their lives being outrageous, just because at the end of the day they want to be able to look at themselves in the mirror and say, well, nobody could say that I was weak or quiet or whatever. So generally speaking, like, the people who you can tell it are just trying really hard to be something are doing it because they're scared of what they really are, which is the other thing. So recently I was doing an exercise of trying to eliminate some physical bad habits. I mean, I've been working on inner game for a long time, and I just had a couple of these, like, little silly sort of twitch things that I don't know where they come from, but
they're called seizures. And, and it happens to a lot of people.
But I want to get rid of them because they frustrate me on a daily basis, and it's just a tiny little thing. But
it's not really a seizure, just so you know.
No.
I just wanted to put that there. So.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead.
So, so basically, I guess I have to explain a little bit in detail. But basically, I have facial hair, and I touch it a lot.
You used to?
I used to. In the past, I had a problem with touching my facial hair, and so your solution was that I needed to shave.
Right.
And
so
I said
that was the most uncomfortable thing you'd ever heard in your entire life.
Right, and I was just like, no, I don't need to shave. Blah blah blah. I just started spilling into this, like, this inconsistent. Like, I don't usually talk like that, and. Right in the middle of saying no, I don't need to shave. That's not the solution here. Mm-hmm. I realized that I only hear people talk like that when they need to do it. Basically.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So essentially, you were avoiding shaving so much that you had to have facial hair, and now your facial hair owns you.
Yeah. When
that happens, So that's kind of a silly sounding version or example, but it's not that silly.
Right.
It happens all over. It happens with all sorts of things, right? So, for example, you don't want to be called, let's say, overweight, and so you stop eating and you spend every day at the gym, right? So now you're the other side of that. Now you're thinner, but because you don't want to be called overweight, you're super body conscious always, and anytime you put on half a pound, you're going to freak out, And so now your life has to be about losing weight, has to be about being in shape, and now that owns you. It owns you instead of you owning it. Instead of you being in control of your body's in control of you. Anything that you swerve around, you give your power to. And that's what's most important. Anything, and you might want to write that down, anything that you swerve around, you give your power to. And that's really crucial. So you want to make sure that instead of swerving around it, you integrate it. Meaning, for example, I remember my big one that I had was I didn't want to be a loud, arrogant douchebag, right? Now I realize that I am one. No, but I didn't want to be a loud, arrogant douchebag. So what was I? Humble, quiet, meek, nice guy, right?
Me too.
That makes sense. So one day I recognized that it's not that I wanted to be a nice guy, it's that I didn't want people to think that I was a douchebag, like a loud asshole, essentially. And so here's what I did to make myself get over that. I said, it was so hard for me to do this, by the way. It was so difficult. I said, okay, you know what? I can be kind of arrogant at times. I guess I am kind of arrogant sometimes. And then I said, but that's okay, really. I mean, it's all right that I'm arrogant sometimes. Why is that really an issue? Why is that a problem? I think that other people told me that was a problem, but that's not a problem. If I'm good at something, I'm just going to say I'm good at it. I'm not going to be like, no, I'm okay. No, I'm not all right. Whatever. You're probably better than me at that. I'm just not that good. I'm not going to do that. I'm not trying to make everybody else happy all the time. I need to be happy too. I need to be a little bit arrogant. So I started integrating it. I was like, all right, I'm a little bit arrogant. And as soon as I did that, like immediately after I did that, I was able to banter. I couldn't banter before in my life. But then I opened up the world to banter. Because half of the stuff I say in banter is so cocky. Just like, did you come all the way over here just to flirt with me? Because, I like it and everything. It's great that you came over here to flirt with me, but we got to have rules here. I mean, you can't touch me in public. You can't call me every day. Once you get my number, you can only buy me 2 drinks. I don't want you to get me drunk. I just rattle off all these obviously super arrogant things, but they're silly and they're funny. And so women would laugh. And so I immediately was able to attract women, By the way, I just made up I didn't make up the first one. That's one of my favorite banter lines, the first one, which is, did you come all the way over here just to flirt with me? Especially if you walked up to her, and then that's the first thing that you say. Because she'll be like, what? You came over here. Like, look, hey, I'm not trying to argue with you, but I'm right. No, but ultimately, I was able to unlock that power. And in order to unlock superpowers like that in yourself, like the ability to do these different stages and these different steps and these different processes, you have to integrate the thing that you're most afraid of being, and it's scary. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's really a lot nicer to have somebody there with you through the process. A brother of yours, not necessarily related to you, but somebody who's there for you, like we are for each other. We're on this call to help each other. So it's better to have someone like us here for you to help you through this process. Is not going to try to dick around with your subconscious mind when you start to reveal things, because people, if they're really insecure and you tell them this stuff, sometimes they'll try to jab you when you put your shield down. Essentially, when you're being honest, they'll try to attack you.
A lot of times because they're insecure about something that you're hitting on.
Yeah, and when you start to face your fears, they have no other excuse process about them hiding from their own fears. They can't make sense of them hiding from their own fears anymore, so they'll try to take you down, and it happens a lot. I'm going to go ahead into another call, or not call. I keep going back to radio here. I got another call here. I'm going to go unmute another person here, and if you do have a question, anyone else at all, the line's relatively short here, so if you press *2, it's very likely we're actually going to get to you, and we'll be able to talk to you a little bit. If you have any questions at all about any of the material you've learned, you can go ahead and ask those questions, and we'll be able to get at you. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Brett. Brett, you there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm here.
You sound excited.
Oh, wow.
What's that?
I am.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Hey, you were talking. You can hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, brother.
You were talking about stepping out of being comfortable.
Right.
And I was wondering, can you change a belief to cause yourself to do that more fluently?
Absolutely. That's actually a really good idea. It's kind of like when I first started really asking a bunch of people who are influential if they had one book that I should read, what would it be? This year. And I started asking a bunch of people that question. And one of the funniest and smartest guys I've met said, read a book on speed reading. That way you can read more books, right? Essentially. So what you're asking right now is you're essentially finding a way to create a belief system that allows you to create belief systems faster, right? So You want to be uncomfortable more often, so you want to have a belief system that supports that, so that you can be uncomfortable, so that you can grow more. One thing is this, Brett, and this has helped me a lot. Brad has this on his phone. Can you pull your phone out real quick so I can look at it? He actually wrote this down, and now he has it as his background on his phone. And I suggest you do the same thing. I wish I could take a picture of this and send to everybody. I guess we could. We'll just do this. There, we took a picture of it on his phone. We'll upload it later. But basically, he wrote down a piece of paper. He wrote, "Stop being a little bitch." And then he wrote, "Man up," underneath it. Now, essentially, this is a note to himself. It's not a belief. But essentially what he's thinking here, what he's creating, is an idea that will back up many of his decisions and bypass a lot of his excuse processes. So the beliefs that I would say first, Brett, that would help you the most, and everyone who's on this call actually, is you want to have a belief that you're the kind of guy who leans into uncomfortable situations or leans into pain. In other words, he faces his fears. You're the kind of guy who faces his fears. And that's what you have to believe. You have to believe that. And the way that you act on that is anything that makes you uncomfortable you have to do. Meaning, if, Brett, do you have any, I don't want to get too deep in this because it's a group call, but do you have any, like, family that you haven't talked to in a while or you don't really get along with?
I'm having an issue with my sister.
Okay, your sister. Perfect. So when's the last time you talked to her?
Oh, it's been a couple months.
Okay, all right. So here's what's going on. You have a problem with your sister right now, and the old Brett would have avoided her for a couple of months like you have. But the new Brett, who leans into pain, has to call her and has to say, look, we need to get this aired out because I don't think it's healthy for either of us to do this, and I know that I want to hear your side of the story, and I want you to hear mine, and I think that this is silly of me. So I want to get out here and I want to talk to you about this stuff. Can we meet up and talk, or can we talk on the phone, or you know what I mean? So you'd lean into that and you'd bring out that uncomfortable situation. Now there are times in which you're going to lean into that, Brett, and you're going to make it worse by doing it, and you have to be okay with that because your goal here is to increase your resistance to discomfort and to increase your ability to experience an uncomfortable feeling, not to make something right. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
I know you don't want to hear that. But that's...
It's just like, if I was going to do that with my sister, and I knew it was bettering myself, but my goal was not to make it better between me and her, that's very uncomfortable to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't control what she thinks or feels. You can't control that. You can only control how much of a grip this has on you. How much of a question mark you have in your mind when you think about it. Now, this is just your sister. We're not talking about, I hope we're not talking about, you do live in Texas, but we're not talking about a girl that you're attracted to. I'm from the South, too. I can say that sort of thing. But, this isn't even a girl that you're attracted to. If you start talking about girls that you're attracted to, you're going to have way more powerful excuse processes, Brett, than this one. Instead of saying, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's starting to slowly hit me. So.
Yeah, good. Because this is something that you can avoid, and you can avoid it, and it won't affect your life that much. I mean, it'll affect it some. It'll just be sort of a small stinging pain somewhere that you can bury. But if it's like this with every woman, where you're not leaning into that uncomfortable feeling, then it's not going to be a slow stinging pain. It's going to be something screaming at you every day. And these excuse processes that you'll have around women are going to be 10 times more powerful than the one you have around your sister. So you have to start acting as if you already are the man who constantly faces his fears. And you have to start now, Brett, not later. Now, right now. Not tomorrow, not in a couple of days. I mean, not even after this call's over. And that's got to switch like that. You have to flip that switch in your head, and it's just got to be true. So I'll tell you an example of something that I've done recently, Brett, and you'll take this with a grain of salt if you want to, but I don't have as many belief systems because I keep on top of my belief systems pretty well now, because they were a big problem for me for such a long time. So I was sitting in Florida with my brother having breakfast, and he's allergic to gluten. He just found out, so he went gluten-free, and all of his problems that he had with his body are gone. He lost like 30 pounds without doing anything different, not working out, nothing. He's got a ton more energy, all this stuff for being gluten-free. And about 70% of white people, it turns out, are allergic to gluten and don't know it. So I was like, well, crap, man, he's my brother. I bet I am too, you know? So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go gluten-free when I get back to California. And we were just about to order food. And he goes, why don't you just do it now? And I was like, okay, I'm gluten-free now. And then I ordered my food. I didn't order toast. I had food that was all gluten-free. And I feel awesome. You know, it feels amazing. But I flipped that switch. And you can do it now too, Brett. You have to just decide that that's what you're doing right now. You're the kind of man who faces his fears. And if anybody asks you while you're talking to them, like if your sister's like, why are you all of a sudden wanting to talk to me? You know, you go, look, I'm just the kind of guy who needs to face this stuff. You know, I don't let stuff like this sort of eat at me over a long period of time. I'm not going to. So I really want to get it aired out. And then when it comes to meeting women, when it comes time to walk up to that beautiful woman and talk to her, and you feel that bit of discomfort, it won't stop you from doing it. Because you're the kind of guy who automatically feels uncomfortable and then walks into it, not runs away from it. So you'll start to approach women, and you won't be able to stop yourself from doing it. You know, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but you're going to be leaning into that discomfort. So that's the best belief to create. And you know, do you have the belief creation process that I have in the Tao of Badass?
I do not. I think I got my copy before. No, I don't.
No, I didn't. I didn't change it. So if you had a copy, you'd have it. But maybe it's somewhere buried. If not, I'll go over it right now with you, just very briefly. I don't have time to go into it very deeply. But essentially, there are 5 major stages that you go through in order to create any belief system. And you might want to write these down.
Oh, no, I have that from your Hacking Attraction.
Oh, okay, great. Cool. So you at least seen it somewhere. So essentially, you want to take this new belief that you are comfortable being uncomfortable. Like it's something that you always do. You always feel that sort of discomfort, and you lean into it. You walk into it. You take that belief and you just run it through these 5 stages. You challenge your current belief that's in place that isn't necessarily there. That isn't necessarily the truth. Like I felt like, in the past I may have run away from stuff like this. So you'll challenge that first. You'll go, but that was back then, and I don't do that anymore. That's it. So, or maybe that's not how I really am. Maybe it's just how I've been acting. So you give yourself a little bit of an out. You wiggle that in there. You sort of put a wedge in, so to speak, in that one spot there. And then it leaves it open for you to change that belief. So then you accept it yourself through basically deciding, like I'm talking about here, to do it now, and then also saying it until it doesn't feel like it's necessarily a lie anymore. Because in the beginning, anytime you say anything that's not a belief system, it feels like a lie in the beginning. Always. It always will. Doesn't matter what it is. So you have to get over that feeling like you're lying. That you have to be able to continue to talk about it until it doesn't feel like you're lying anymore. So you say that until it doesn't feel like a lie. Then after that, you're going to proclaim it. You're going to say it to someone else in normal conversation. If someone says, "Why are you doing this? Why are you all of a sudden want to talk to me?" Or "Why are you?" If you walk up to a girl and she's like, "Why are you coming over here and just saying hi and then standing there?" You're going to say, "Well, it's because it made me uncomfortable to do it. So I'm the kind of guy who I just anything that makes me uncomfortable, I have to lean into it. I have to push forward. I have to try." And that's it. You have to proclaim it after that, and then you'll get feedback from people. I would prefer that you get feedback from people that you trust first, and then go out to people that you don't know. And so they'll respond back in a specific way, and you'll be blown away, Brett, by the kind of responses you'll get from women from being honest. Like truly, truly honest, not just like, "Oh, I live here and my name is Brett." That's honest too, but that's not really that big of a deal. The big deal stuff is the stuff like, "Hey, this is who I am. I do this. I always face this stuff." That's who I am. So she'll be really. You'll be. I know. I'm not going to say what she'll be. You'll see what she is. What happens? You'll see what happens to you whenever you do that. I remember the first time I used this. After that, you'll submit the belief. And that's the final stage. Is submission of the belief. So the thing that happened to me was the first time I realized this process is I had the belief that I was hot. That was the best belief I could have at the time. I was like, that's a really good belief. So I was like, okay, I am hot. And I was like, that's not true. But that's okay, I'll keep doing it. I'm hot. God damn it. I'm hot and there's nothing I can do about it. This is the way it is. So I started saying stuff like that to myself until I believed it. I said it to a girl. She laughed in my face. I think I wrote this in the book. She laughed in my face for like 5 minutes straight. Just like, it probably wasn't 5 minutes. It was probably like 2 minutes. But it felt like 10 or 50, You know, she laughed in my face, and then she stopped and she goes, "You know, I guess you are hot." And I was like, "Holy crap, that worked! I can't believe it worked." I was just blown away by what happened. So whenever you start to use this concept, you're gonna have to walk into that discomfort, and you're gonna have to put yourself there, and you're gonna have to know that if it doesn't work, it doesn't end up the way you want it to end up, that it's still working because you're still facing your discomfort, and that's what allows you to improve over time, and not even a very long period of time either. It can happen in a very, very short period of time. So definitely lean into it, and definitely create the belief that you are the kind of man who leans into pain, who leans into discomfort, and when something makes you scared, you do it. That's how it is, you know. So that would be the belief that I'd say create. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. Are you about to say something else? Yes, but, or yes, and?
No, yes, and no, yes, but.
Okay, good.
No, it makes total sense. It's just, I was just trying to figure out a way how to recreate my beliefs in that specific area of my life.
Brett, why don't you try this with me real quick, if you don't mind? Why don't you just
All
try?
right.
Why don't you just try saying, I'm just say just like I say it right now. Okay, just remember what I say. Just say, I'm just the kind of guy who leans into pain, and that's just the way it is. So say that.
I'm the kind of guy.
Oh, you already messed up. I said I'm just the kind of guy. It's got to feel like you can't control it. It's just how it is, right? So try it again.
I'm the kind of guy that leans into pain.
Okay. So let's try it again. Try this. I'm just the kind of guy.
I am just the kind of guy
that leans into pain.
That leans into pain.
And that's just how it is.
And that's just how it is.
Okay, so that way you just said it there is the most powerful way you can say this. And it's gonna. Does it feel weird, Brett? What did you say? Sorry, I lost you. Brett.
A little bit.
What's that?
No, it feels weird a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, if it feels weird, that's good. That's what it's supposed to feel like in the beginning. So your goal for until the next call, which will be a week from now, which we'll post as well. Your goal until the next call is to integrate that belief, Brett. Integrate it fully and act as if that is the truth right now. From now moving forward, from this moment moving forward, you have to act as if that's the truth. Because that will allow you to clean up a bunch of crap in your life, first off. You'll be doing maintenance on your life. You're going to go through and be like, well, I'm the kind of guy who leans into pain, so I have to call this person and talk to them and call them out. If someone screws me over, I got to be like, hey, look, man, you can't do that. You know? If somebody, if a woman is there and she's really attractive and you want to go talk to her and tell her that, you'll walk over and go, hey, you know, I just thought you were really attractive. I wanted to talk to you, otherwise I'd kick myself all day for not talking to you. You know, if it's that pain point and that's the trigger for action, you'll be a self-maintaining machine, Brett. You'll be a machine that takes care of itself. You'll be able to, anytime you need to make progress or you need to make change, the trigger for that change, meaning the trigger, by the way, being that you're uncomfortable, the trigger that you need to go that direction will force you to act. And that's what you want. You want a good reaction. That's a good reaction. When it says, when I'm uncomfortable, I act, I grow. That's a really good reaction to have. So you want to create that belief and you want to create that reaction so that it actually helps you to put yourself in uncomfortable positions moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Sweet. All right, man. Any other questions, Brett?
I had one, but I totally lost it.
You got to cross your fingers. You got to cross your fingers and remember. Did you?
I did that with this one.
Oh, that one. Okay, but not with the other one? No worries. No worries, man. Okay, well, if it comes back to you, just let me know. Raise your hand again. Press star 2. Any other guys who have a question, press star 2 now because we're just about to wrap up. If I don't see any more questions coming in, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up now. So if you have a question, please do press star 2 now, and I will chat with you a little bit. Or even not a question, maybe just a statement, anything you want to say at all about the calls or about anything at all. Just go ahead and say now. Brett, thanks so much, man, for chatting with us and revealing what you revealed and letting us work with you on this. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. So guys, this sort of concludes, unless you have any more questions, star 2 if you do. This concludes today's sort of follow-up call. I do want to let you know that next week we have another follow-up call. Very likely will be on Thursday. Let me just check. Looks like it's already scheduled for Thursday of next week, which is the 28th. So definitely be there for that one. We're going to be talking about the same sort of stuff. We're going to go in more detail. I'm going to help you sort of get over some of the speed bumps you've had since you started this a week and a half ago, and also review some of the content and answer a ton of questions. The next one's going to be a lot of questions, so come with your questions in hand. Questions that you've had between now and next week. I want to know what those questions are. I want you to write them down, and I want you to bring them to the conference call, to the actual meeting. And I want to be able to pull those out of you, and I want to be able to answer them and work them out, work through them with you. So make sure over the next week, as you integrate and you apply the idea of two things that are sort of your responsibility, that are your responsibility for this next coming week are, you have to believe that you're hot. So you need to do that. That's very, very crucial. If you need to go back and reread The Tao of Badass and find the section on confidence, I believe is where it is, or somewhere in the book, just do a quick search in the PDF and you'll find it. I talk a lot about that sort of stuff on those calls, or not on those calls, sorry, in the book. So make sure you check out the belief creation process in there. If you can't find it and you're having problems, just let me know and I'll be able to reveal it to you. So you have to go through that process. Create an I'm hot belief and just start integrating it into the way you act. And then the next thing I want you to do is I want you to essentially, and I don't mean to offend anyone with this, but stop being a little bitch. That's the motto. That was my motto. I had that written on my marker board forever at my house. Anytime I felt like I needed to run away from a problem, I looked at it and just said, that's not what a man would do. I need to man up and I need to actually face this problem. So if you want to be a man, you've got to face those problems and face those fears and those discomforts. So
and that starts right now.
Yeah, at this moment. You have to start right now.
Right now, changing your background on your phone, or
Yep.
something that you're going to see every day, writing it up, posting it above your TV or your computer or
right,
your bed.
Putting it somewhere in your porn collection. Make one of your plush dolls in your 1800 plush doll collection. Have that posted. No, but anyway, ultimately you want to have that somewhere you can see it all the time, anytime you need it, so that anytime you start to feel that feeling of, I want to avoid that, I don't want to face that, you instantly are reminded to man up. And that's what you want. You want to break the pattern that you currently have. You want to create a new pattern that helps you attract women. And that way your subconscious mind begins to help you attract women. And when you get your subconscious mind on your side, it's over, man. It is amazing. You don't have to worry about anything anymore, because your subconscious mind will force you to do what is attractive always, unless you've reframed it. I had to actively turn off my attraction when I was talking to women when I started dating my current girlfriend, because I don't want to attract those women. I don't want to attract other women because it makes things really difficult. So I had to consciously remember not to flirt as much. And of course, because I didn't want to flirt, I had polar opposing insecurity compensation, and I went to the extreme other side of not talking to women very much. So I had to correct that, and I fall for it too, man. Everybody does. So you want to make sure that you catch yourself doing that stuff. Review this content over and over again. If you have any questions, hopefully by the end of the day today, I think we can do this by the end of the day today, you'll have a link in the founding members section on your My Library page, and that link will take you to a page that shows you the schedule, not just for the calls, but also for the events coming up. And then it'll also have a comment box below it that will allow you to comment and make any sort of notes or anything that you want to talk about for the next call. And I'll go through and I'll look through the comment section and I'll answer those questions as they come through. So definitely check that out. Thanks to Brad for hosting this for us. This is great. So yay! And thank you guys for checking it out. I will see you next week at Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time We're going to go about the same amount of time. We only usually have an hour allotted for this, but we went a little bit over this time. So we'll probably stick a little bit closer to the time next week, so keep that in mind. And you can download a copy of this call. Brad's going to send that link out to you today. So you'll have a copy of this call ready waiting for you when you get done. So, all right, brothers, thank you so much. I will talk to you soon. Take care, and man up, brothers. All right, welcome back to the next call in line here for the Founding Members Club. I am Joshua Pellicer, of course, author of The Tao of Badass, and with me I have Brad as well, who's here. I'm going to be leading most of this call. Brad, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Couldn't hear you at all till you just unmuted yourself. So, all right, so essentially over the past month, we've had a couple of calls sort of focused around the idea of, for lack of a better term, inner game, sort of belief, not necessarily just belief creation, but belief creation, belief replacement. So if you have some, bad beliefs that have been hurting you over time or just aren't helping you, how to replace your crappy beliefs with ones that are actually going to serve you. And then, of course, how to solidify your beliefs and which beliefs are best for building confidence, which ones are best for really generating the kind of attractive personality naturally that women are going to be absolutely drawn toward. Brad, do you want to go ahead and sort of go over some of the things that we talked about over the past month that sort of stood out to you, and just sort of recap real quick, and I'll sort of jump in every couple seconds.
Sure, yeah. So we start off by talking about how powerful it is to reprogram your unconscious mind by using your conscious mind. So by that we mean basically if you say something out loud, then your brain basically tells your subconscious to start that's true. So it can work in a really positive or really negative way.
Right.
So knowing that, you can take advantage of it and make sure to keep a positive tongue, as you say.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just that it's the positive parts of everything obviously are very important, and being able to recognize the positive things that you can say or recognize the negative stuff that you are saying and get rid of that is very important. And I think that what you're sort of hitting at here is that the point is that your conscious mind actually does control your subconscious mind, and a lot of people don't believe that, don't know that. And so what happens is, your subconscious mind is where all your beliefs live, and also where your body language lives, and also where your emotion lives. So we end up being controlled by our emotions because we don't think that we can actually control our subconscious mind. But our subconscious mind takes cues on what to believe from our conscious mind. And so what ends up happening is we see the world around us, we interpret that a certain way, and our subconscious minds begin to make us feel a certain way. Right, Brad? So that's essentially what you're trying to say. And I, for me, when I first found this out, it was a massive, massive awakening, because it meant that I could change my beliefs if I really wanted to. It took me probably about 3 years to really be able to understand how to use it. And I practiced a lot and everything. And I found out that there's some sort of fallacies to the way that people use this. One of those ways is affirmations, and they would just say positive things, hoping that positive things would happen. And it's a little bit more, in depth than that. It wasn't so simple. It wasn't just like you think something positive and something positive happens. It's more like you think something positive, and then your subconscious mind starts to challenge it until it, whichever one pursues longer, whichever one persists and endures, is the one that ends up being the final belief system. And yet, of course, your belief systems then create your body language. So if your body language is unattractive and you don't know that, your belief systems are what create that body language. And so then it changes the way you move your body, and then, of course, women see the way you move your body, and they decide whether or not they're attracted to you based on that. Mostly on that, about 80% roughly will be body language and vocal tonality, which is both controlled by your subconscious mind. So essentially, what we perceive is that we have a certain feeling, and that feeling is what creates everything. What is the truth, or what is how we really feel, or whatever. But the truth is that your emotions are controlled by your body language, and your emotions are controlled by your belief system. Sorry about that. And your body language is controlled by your emotions. So you get a feeling, you act that way, but if you have a belief, that creates the feeling in the first place. So you actually can create new belief systems, which will then trickle down into creating positive, powerful, attractive body language. And that really is the way to improve your body language over time, and not just like put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, as they say, and try to cover it up, which is what a lot of people will teach you how to do. So anyway, what else do we talk about, Brad? And what also, do you have anything to say about that as well, or?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
A little bit of a calamity. I've got some dog friends chilling out with me here.
All right.
But you mentioned that it took you about 3 years to like really hone in and calibrate this like belief system creation process. But I know that everybody I've told this to has been able to say at least one thing immediately right after I told them, that just kind of, you can see this look in their face that's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It just like as soon as you say take this thing that you've been holding on to as a fear, or as something that you thought that you were bad at in the past, or that you didn't have, and all of a sudden you say that you have it, or you are fucking awesome at it. As soon as that happens, you see this look in their face that's a mixture of a little bit of fear, a little bit of curiosity, and hope and excitement.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've experienced that, coaching countless times, but
yeah. I think that the fear part of it is that the realization that you actually do have control over this, meaning that you've been responsible for the reactions you've been getting the whole time.
Exactly.
And that is scary, because we look at that world around us thinking, oh, well, women, it's them. They don't, if they don't like you, then it's them. It's not you. It's that they look at you and they're not attracted. But the truth is that you can make them attracted. And that's not hard. It's not very hard to do at all. It's just a matter of understanding a few, what are relatively simple truths about attraction, about women, about psychology, and about belief systems that'll allow you to sort of control how you are perceived by other people. Now, of course, that does stop at a certain point. If you have, it's hard to control other people's realities if it's something that's blaring at them. Like, for example, if you think that you're overweight because you're extremely overweight, believing that you're not overweight is not going to change other people's perception of you, which is why we have a belief creation process. The belief creation process has to have your feedback from other people. So as you start to build up these beliefs, you'll go through this process of like, well, okay, well, I'm thinking something, and then I go out in the world, and then I'm not getting the same reaction when I get out there. Well, that could be one of two things. It could be that you don't actually believe it. You're just pretending like you believe it, or not even pretending, not even giving it that much chance. Or your new belief system is so far off from what other people perceive to be reality that you're not getting the proper feedback from people. So, for example, if I were to say to myself, all blonde women think I'm hot, right? That might be something that I think is a good idea to think. But if I find one concept or one piece of evidence to the contrary, like I find one blonde girl that doesn't think I'm hot, even if she really doesn't think I'm hot, like for real, maybe it's my sister or something, someone I can totally rationalize easily, then that sort of makes that entire belief system fall to pieces. And you don't want a belief system that's so fickle that when you find one piece of evidence to the contrary, it falls apart. So what you want to do is you want to create a belief system that is general enough, but general enough to be approved by other people, but specific enough to help you take it to the next step.
To really mean something to you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, to help you in some kind of way, right? So, well, essentially, I would say instead of all blonde women think I'm hot, I would say, for some reason, blonde women just seem to think I'm hot. I don't know why that is, right? Okay, that could be true. That could be a truth for me. Why? Because that's my perception. That's okay. I'm not trying to say that it's a fact across the board. No one would argue that for some reason it seems like blonde women think I'm hot. No one would argue that. And they couldn't argue that. And so whenever I get out in the real world and I start getting feedback from that, what ends up happening is my subconscious mind reads the feedback, not my belief. I mean, I'm going to say all day, oh, blonde women think I'm hot. Blonde women think I'm hot. Yes, they do. They do. As soon as I see one piece of feedback to the contrary, your entire belief system, your subconscious mind goes, yeah, right. You are lying to me. That's what it says. Because you are perceiving someone else giving you contrary evidence. So what you want to do is you want that evidence that you give from other people, that feedback, to be in line with what your belief is. And if you don't have your feedback in line with that belief, then you have to shift your belief slightly so that you still get the same results, but that you start to get the feedback that you're looking for. And that's whenever your body language and your emotions start to change, and your power over a situation will start to grow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and one thing I if you think about it in terms of like, so even if you sort of overextend your belief that you're testing or something, if it's a positive thing, like as soon as your subconscious goes into that that feedback seeking mode, mm-hmm. You're gonna be looking for a confirmation of that positive things. So like it's kind of like, I guess I'm trying to think. It's kind of like the Michael Jordan quote, like you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So if you don't even try to believe that, for example, that blondes think you're attractive, then you'll never even get to the point where you're looking for feedback. Right. You'll never get to that point. So that's why we have to constantly be challenging ourselves to come up with new and forward seeking and positive beliefs for ourselves.
Right. And I think that and by the way, I think that Michael Jordan said that, and that Wayne Gretzky said that. I have no idea where it originated, but some amazing athlete said that. Right. But another thing that you're sort of hitting on here, which I think is really important, is that if you're going out and you are talking to someone and you are getting that feedback from them, or you're searching for that feedback, then the point is that it's almost better to be delusional about it. I mean, it's almost better to say something that's so outrageous and not true at all that it seems like you're delusional, because it's not that people will look at you and go, yeah, that guy's right, that's absolutely true. It's that you're going to be searching for that, and so you're going to find it wherever it already exists. So if you think to yourself, all women think I'm hot, and then you walk outside and not all women will think you're hot. It's kind of how it is. Some women are just not going to be attracted. They're not attracted to me either. It's how it is. They're weird. Is what I call them. Weirdos. They're called blind women. No, but if you do have this massive overcompensating belief, that's just imagine the thing you could think that's absolutely just almost beyond cocky, arrogant. You're still going to do better than if you didn't have exactly. that. If you didn't think that women thought you were attractive, you're still going to do better. Why? Well, because you're going to be finding the women who are currently actually attracted to you. So one of the biggest things I found, the biggest questions, and you guys, I'm sure you understand this because I'm sure this is a question that you've asked before, asked yourself or asked someone else, and that is, how can you tell when a woman's attracted to you? That seems like a very difficult thing to do. I mean, it's the $1 million question. How can I tell when she's really attracted to me? Well, I can tell you right now, the reason why you're asking that question is because you don't expect her to be attracted to you. You don't expect it to happen. And I've been taught over the years that you get what you expect, not what you deserve. You might want to write that down. You get what you expect, not what you deserve. If you've been waiting, to be a nice guy, and eventually, since you deserve a good woman, she's going to show up, that will never happen. You'll be alone forever. Because you get what you expect to happen, not what you deserve to happen. So you want to make sure that you expect the best. always. You want to expect women to be attracted to you all the time. You expect that 10, that really beautiful woman, the one who's, all the super hot dudes who are like model status, those guys, or the cocky dudes, or the popular, or the rock stars, or whoever, all the guys that, that get girls like that, you want to expect girls like that to like you. If you do, a certain percentage of those women are definitely going to like you. And they're going to be very attracted to you. And you're going to find that out as you start to believe this. So I'm not saying that it's a good thing to be delusional all the time. But if you have a choice between being delusional in a way that's not good for you and being delusional in a way that helps you, I choose the one that helps you. Because if you think that no women like you, that's another delusion. It's not reality. And if it's what you've been experiencing that women don't like you, and that's just how you feel, then you're going to be creating that over and over again. And then anytime some woman is attracted to you, you're just not going to see it. Like Brad said, you're going to look right past it, and you're going to be looking for a way, or the one time that she loses interest, and it's going to solidify everything that you believe. So, and that's what we do with beliefs, though. When we create a belief, we automatically search for something that can solidify that belief, that can back up that belief. So, and since we know that's the truth, we've been operating like this for thousands of years as a species here. That we create beliefs and then we search for that validation of that belief. If you know that's true and it's 100% true, then you have to choose a new belief system that's going to help you. Because you know that if you're thinking something or you believe something, that you're automatically going to be searching for evidence to prove that. So you would rather be searching for evidence to prove that women are attracted to you than searching for evidence to find out that women aren't attracted to you. And that will help you exponentially. This was like the basis for and even in a bad way, it was the basis for my, for beginning all this process for me and trying to get, learning how to build my confidence, because I realized that, it's not actually true that not any women are attracted to me. What I really meant was that it seems like only women I'm not attracted to are attracted to me, and the women that I really wanted didn't like me. So I had a small pool of people at the time, I thought, So I was like, well, I think that I have a small pool of people, and that's what my reality is right now. So I'm just going to believe that every woman likes me, and women find me hot. And that's what I did, and that's what I wrote about in the Tao of Badass. And whenever I did, start to develop that concept of belief creation, I had to go back and deconstruct what I did there, because it was the only time I've ever heard of creating a belief system that actually worked on the fly. And that was my big sort of realization, Brad, have you gone through your beliefs one at a time? I know you've been sort of handling them one at a time, but what's the most recent belief you went through that you've had to sort of reframe, just so we can hear? And I'll go over one that I went through recently too. And I have very different focuses than I think a lot of people do, because I've been studying this for such a long time and I've gotten the success that I've really wanted from it. So a lot of mine aren't around attracting women anymore, because I've got a pretty good set of beliefs there. But Brad, what was your last belief that you sort of challenged, that you had to go up against?
Well, I definitely took a page out of your book, quite literally, and I've taken on the very deep belief that I am the kind of guy who approaches anybody I'm curious about. I think that's really important, because that's the stepping stone to approaching any girl as well, is just being able to walk up to anybody on the street or in the store or whatever, and just say, hey, I like your shirt, or like I was telling you about the Volkswagen. There's this awesome vintage Volkswagen van outside my place, and I saw the guy that owned it, and I was like, man, that is an awesome car. I love it. And he was like, oh, thank you. And I guess I've sort of revisited it, because one of the things I've struggled with in the past was this sort of idea that I got growing up, which was that it's not polite to bother people.
Right.
Everybody, just kind of do your own thing and leave everybody else alone, and you'll be fine. But I'm realizing, or have realized a long time ago, that that's a surefire way to mediocrity.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I mean, taking something like as simple as walking up and saying, "Hey, man, that's a nice car." If we don't realize how much power that actually gives us to do that, when we do that, we're thinking, "Oh, we're complimenting somebody. I don't have time to compliment somebody. I need to work on myself."
Right.
That's a big focus that we have, and a lot of guys talk themselves out of complimenting people for that exact reason. Now, like you're saying, I would say that the biggest sort of point here to take away from that concept is that if you are constantly approaching people that you're curious about, then you create a new belief system that you approach anybody that you're curious about. And if you do that, when you walk up to a woman, your first thought is not going to be, I'm approaching this woman because I think she's hot. I hope she likes me. It's not going to be that.
And I know from personal experience, and I'm sure the guys listening have been through this as well. When you first start learning about, sort of like pickup and whatever, one of the things that they sort of recommend is just going up to every hot girl you see.
Right.
And it's sort of missing. It's missing a little bit. Like that's better than nothing. But what you're saying is has helped me. 10 times more in approaching beautiful women, because you're not walking up to them and looking at them as an object or like an outcome or a desire. It's just a person,
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is that of course you're going to be attracted to them. Of course you're going to be, thinking that they're hot. And of course you're going to be, wow, this girl's really beautiful. But that's all a side note. It's about what you lead with that's most important. If you walk up there thinking, oh, I need to talk to her because blank, right? There could be, I need to talk to her because I need to get better with women. All right, well, that's good. That's actually a pretty good thing to think. I think, personally. That's pretty good. But it's not as good as I need to talk to her because I talk to everybody that I think is interesting. And if she's hot and that interests you, well, damn, dude, go talk to her. Just split and go hang out with her and chat with her. So that's what you absolutely are going to want to do. So as you build up these belief systems, you're going to have to create a list of, 5 belief systems that you really want to have, that you really, really want. And that, are, just, as long as they're not like, okay, well, they're compensations for insecurities. Like if I were to write down, I'm not losing my hair, that would make my hair stay in, it would just make me not care as much about it, So at the end of the day, the thing that you can't control is your belief system associated with it, and that is what controls your emotions. And if you control your beliefs, you can control your emotions. If you control your emotions, then you can control your body language, and you can make any woman want to be with you and make any woman attracted to you. And that's really what this sort of secret is all about. Now, it's not as pretty sounding, or as like fancy sounding as being like, well, all you have to do is approach 1,000 women, and then you're good, because that sounds, that actually sounds kind of difficult to a lot of people, but you could at least do that,
And it's also not as easy sounding as all you have to do is say something positive and it's going to happen, like
right,
or basically wish for something or some,
right,
the secret.
Right, man. I'm not going to knock the power of thinking positively here, but I am going to knock the sort of holding back that just thinking positively does. I'm going to knock that sort of subculture that we've been taught now that, okay, well, if we just think positively, everything's going to work. The secret was a great step forward for people because it took the average person and it reached them. It said, okay, well, I'm the average person living in, some small town, and I don't know, I've sort of felt trapped my whole life. Well, if I can just think positively, sometimes things will happen. Well, that's good. That's good. That's closer. It's a lot closer than just being like, well, I'm helpless, So essentially, I wanted to just touch a little bit on the conscious mind, programming your unconscious mind, again, your subconscious mind. And, we talked about this for the past couple of calls, and we went over some other things too. And I wanted, Brad, do you want to sort of go down the list here and just name off a couple other things too, and we can dive into those as well. And guys, as well, if you do have any questions, and I'm sure you do, anything that you've experienced over the past, week since our last call, if it's been a week or two, anything that you have seen that has really altered the way that you view things, or any challenges you've run into, or any not just challenges, or any sort of insights that you've had that you can share with me and Brad and everyone else on this call, it'd be very, very helpful to have to hear those insights and to hear those successes and those challenges that you've been having, so we can help you get over them. So if you do have those questions, press *2 on your phone. So that's *2. And by the way, soon we are going to have we're going to have it so that people can start listening to this on their computer, by the way. So that'll be a little bit easier for guys, I think. And if they don't have very good cell phone reception, they'll be able to log onto the computer and listen to it as well. So next time we should have that ready. But yeah, press *2 if you have any questions or any comments. I already see a couple people raising their hands now. And we're going to go into the next section, and then I want to call on some people so we can, really get some feedback and start to interact. So this is the third call of the month. So this is the call where we unlock the lines the most, and we talk the most to people, and we're not just lecturing at you. So it's really, we need your interaction a lot here, and I really want to see, what you have to say and what you've experienced recently and things like that, so we can help you get through stuff. I also want to, before I let you sort of continue here, I would like to give a guy an opportunity to get on what's called a hot seat. A hot seat is where you take one person from a call, and not that you tear them to pieces, but you listen to what they have to say, and then the team just goes, all right, I'm going to tell you what's wrong here. I'm going to go into serious detail, and I'm going to break apart some things that have been holding you back. And so, if you are interested in sort of being part of that hot seat, usually you only have time for one per call, but I have a feeling we could probably do more than one this call if we get to it soon and we get on it. So if you do want to be in the hot seat, press *2, and when I call on you, you can let me know you want to be in the hot seat, and we'll start asking you some questions and sort of getting at it there and breaking down some things that might be holding you back. This is a very safe environment. No one's listening unless they're a founding member. It's not an open call. This is a very private call, and it's just got the coaches on it and other guys who are going through the exact same thing that you are experiencing. So feel free to say whatever you want. It's in total confidence. I'm the only person who knows who you are, and no one else does. So no worries there.
It's like going to confession.
It's like going to confession if you've ever been religious. Except I'm not sure, but you might be able to be arrested at confession. I'm not really sure about that. But I'm not a cop, as far as you know. So, Brad, it's like confession, but without all the guilt.
Right.
So, Brad, what else did we talk about last time that you might be able to bring up and sort of dive into here for a moment?
Well, I definitely think it's good to keep, in our minds the best exercise to put this into action today and continue going forward, which is to be very conscious of the words, of what you're saying, and if you ever recognize yourself saying that you're not good at something, or you're just, some sort of negative belief you might have had about yourself in the past, and so instead of saying that, I'm bad at approaching women in the daytime, then you'd start this whole process by saying, in the past, I thought I had a problem approaching women in the daytime. And
you can even say, like, I'll even let you say, in the past, I found it hard, or in the past it was hard, or I couldn't. It's okay. It's okay if you say the definitive thing, as long as you put it in the past. What you never want to do is and of course I never say never, but I'm saying it right now. What you never want to do here is you never want to put your challenges, the things that you think you suck at, you never want to say that in the present tense. That will screw you up more than anything, period. I'm not saying that, saying, oh, I used to be bad with women, you're going to walk up tonight and go, I used to be bad with women, and then you're going to walk up to a woman and she's going to go, oh my God, can I suck your dick? She's not going to say that. And that's not going to happen. But what will happen is you will allow yourself, and this is crazy. I know it's like, it's not really something that is, might not be within your reality right now. Maybe something that you don't even realize you're doing. But the moment you start putting that stuff in the past, you allow yourself to get better. We don't realize how much we actually hold ourselves back from growing, from getting better with women, from attracting women instantly and very easily. I'd love to go into some stories about this in a bit, Brad. I'm not sure if any guys want to hear any of my war stories, but I can totally tell some, and I've had some pretty funny ones where I've walked with a woman and been rejected, or walked up and done some things that I was like, holy crap, I had no idea I was going to be able to do that. I really didn't think that was possible. So essentially, yeah, what I'm saying here is that you want to put your challenges in the past tense. Always put them in the past tense. And that means,
if you have friends too, by the way, this is a great thing to involve friends who might not even, be into, self-improvement as much, but just can back you up and can catch you if you happen to say something in the present tense. They can be like, in the past,
Right, exactly. And that'll help you out because then, they're with you on that fight, and that's really helpful, extremely helpful. Now your dog agrees. But anyway, so ultimately, putting your challenges in the past is going to allow you to have control over them, have some sort of a leg up over them. And if you keep putting them in present tense and saying, oh, I'm bad at blah, blah, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is, then it's going to perpetuate that problem. And it will do it. Trust me. Trust me, it will do it. And you can try it out. You can try saying one thing one day and then saying another thing another day and watch the difference. Just look at the scoreboard at the end of the day, Just look at, okay, well, this day I said that, I was really bad at it in the present tense. And this day I put it in the past tense. And what was the difference? How many girls did you smiled at you that day? Just count girls smiling at you. And watch the difference in how many girls smile at you based on just changing your belief system. I know it sounds kind of crazy. It may sound crazy. To me, it was like, I'm a very, very, very logical guy. And I'm not like the kind of guy who's like, oh, well, just the universe will open up and you'll be treated. I just don't believe that crap, really. I mean, I believe that, the universe is something that we live in, and it's something that I think is really cool to study, but I don't think that it has necessarily has a consciousness that's going to bring us stuff and reward us for stuff. But I do believe that our subconscious minds let go of things that we try to hold in. And if we start to let them go consciously, they will be let go subconsciously. Brad, did you just wrestle a dog into submission there?
Well, I won't go into details, but
okay. All right. Well, anyway, I wanted to sort of open the floor for you and let you comment there.
Yeah, I just think this, like you said, this is sort of the doorway to, improving for the rest of your life. I mean, the thing that's really remarkable about this little sort of exercise or trick or whatever is that I guarantee 99% of people don't do it, and they just create these like infinite loops of doubt and these negative belief systems that may never get worse, but they never get better.
Right.
They'll just perpetually think that talking to girls unless they're drunk or something like that. I think that's a very common one.
Yeah. I mean, I had that. I had that belief, and that's why whenever I first started studying, I recognized that I was better with women whenever I was drinking, so I stopped drinking for 2 months, and I kept going out because I did not want that to be a crutch. I was so avoidant of crutches. I mean, even whenever I found out about I'm not sure if anyone on this call has seen this yet, but I'll release it at some point coming up pretty soon. It's called the Black Book Technique. Now, Brad, you saw it, I know, because I taught you this.
Yes.
But I used to use this technique where I would use a little black book, and I keep it in my back pocket, and I would write girls' names down. And after doing a couple little things, and tweaking a little bit, I got to where I could write their name down, hand them the book, and without asking for their phone number, they would give me their phone numbers. And it was just phenomenal. Like it was the loophole. It was like some kind of weird magic trick that I was able to do. And I did it probably, I don't know, I filled up 4 books. So I did it a lot before I was like, you know what, I keep doing this. And if I don't stop right now, I'm going to always do this. I won't be able to do anything else. I'm just going to be focusing on using this trick forever. And I'm never going to get beyond this trick. So I really wanted to sort of get beyond that and let that go and sort of take it to the next level. So I stopped using it. I stopped using it because I didn't want to use that as a crutch. So any crutch that you have is going to hold you back. Now, it will give you positive results in the meantime, which is great. So just make a note. Hey, man, no matter what happens, You can always go back to using the black book technique. You can always go back to talking to women whenever you're drunk. You'll never get worse than that, you know? So when you know something works, just categorize it, you know, I'd say catalog it even, and put it on the shelf for a little bit, and just go, all right, remember that thing. That thing works for you. You can do it really well, and you can do it intrinsically and easily. Just remember that if you're having a bad night and you want to have a good night, pull that thing off the shelf, and it'll happen, you know? And then just leave it there until you need it. And then move on to the next thing and study the next thing that you're not good at. You know, always search for that, you know, so that 4-line, so to speak. And that's something that I go over in Hacking Attraction. Do you know if I went over the 4-line in the Tao of Badass? I can't even remember if I went over it or not. I went over so much stuff in there.
No.
I did not. It's kind of an advanced concept. Essentially, it's that we go through these 4 different stages whenever we are improving ourselves. And the 4-line is the 4th stage, which is called unconscious or subconscious, however you want to say it, competence, meaning you don't even know that you're good at something. You're just that good at it. It just happens subconsciously, you know, or unconsciously, so to speak, depending on who you studied in psychology here. I had a friend of mine who's a psychologist, and she was like, why do you keep saying subconscious, you know? And I was like, because that's the word. That's what you use. It's below your conscious mind. She goes, no, you know, Freud uses unconscious. I was like, I don't care about Freud. I care about all the other psychologists that use subconscious. But anyway, so I use subconscious in this. But yeah, so there are 4 different stages, and they are subconscious incompetence, meaning you don't know you suck at it. Conscious incompetence, meaning you realize you suck all of a sudden. Conscious competence, where you realize you're getting better. And then subconscious competence, where you don't even think about it anymore, you're just awesome at it. And what we do is, it used to be thought that we go through these different stages, and when we get to the last one, we're done. But that's not the truth. When we get to the last one, you correct and go back the other direction again. So what ends up happening is, because it's a subconscious process, you're only aware of 2 stages here: conscious incompetence and conscious competence. And that means that for you think, here's what you think: I'm good at this. Oh, no, I'm not. I suck at it. Oh, I'm getting better at it. Oh, no, actually, I suck at it. That's what it feels like. Because you don't realize you're cycling through these over and over and over again, and going to the next level every time you cycle through them. So the last thing you see is conscious competence, because you're conscious of it. It's in your conscious mind. And then you go through 2 subconscious stages: subconscious competence and subconscious incompetence. You go through those 2 stages, and the next stage you're aware of is conscious incompetence, where you realize you suck at something. And so what it feels like is we're taking, you know, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, sort of over and over and over again in our lives. But if you look and you actually map out what your challenges are, your challenges change over time. Your challenges grow over time. You know, yesterday you may have had a challenge doing one thing, but today your challenges are new because you mastered the challenges of yesterday. And that's what we don't see. We're inside this head of ours, and we're looking out of these windows that are our eyes, you know, and we don't see that we are going through these stages, that we're actually getting better. And then when we go to the next level, then we're comparing ourselves to people at the next level. And so we think we suck. It's kind of like going to a new grade. You know, you may be the king of 8th grade, but when you get to 9th grade and you're in high school, you're nobody. That's how it is. You know, you might be cool, you know, a little bit, but when other schools merge together in that high school class, you know, and you're part, and if you have a bigger city you live in especially, and you're part of a bigger group of people, and you're at the bottom of the food chain, oh, it feels shitty. It feels like you're a nobody. And that's what happens. What's happening is you're taking it to another level, and you cannot grow to become like your full fulfilled man if you don't take it to the next level every time. So you want to make sure that you're constantly doing that. If you're not looking for that, what do I suck at next? You know, what do I suck at now? If you're not constantly looking for that, then you're not going to grow as fast as you can. That's what's called the 4-line. The way to stay on the 4-line, which is the, you know, subconscious competence stage, is that as soon as you recognize you suck at something, your subconscious mind automatically, even in your sleep, starts to work toward mastering that. You know, and it'll get probably 50% of the way there without you even trying at all. Now, if you want to get to the final mastery level, you have to continue. But you don't really have to. You don't have to do that. If you were 50% better at everything that you realized you sucked at, you would be a Renaissance man. You'd be the only man in the world that knew how to do everything, you know? But what happens is we don't look for that, you know, that second stage, that that what do I suck at next? What do I suck at? What do I suck at? And what happens is you're constantly looking for what you suck at, and you constantly think about how to improve it. And you're not, letting that hold you back at all. You just say, okay, well, I'm not very good at this. I should look at it and look into it a little bit and just read about it and understand it a little bit better. If you're constantly doing that, what you're doing is you're pulling your swings. It's kind of like you have a pendulum. You're pulling your pendulum down to the center and you're holding it there. And that's what's called the four-line. The four-line's where you can keep your growth pattern at a subconscious competence level. So your subconscious mind is helping you learn and master skills. And whenever you are going through this process with me and reading the Tao of Badass and understanding this and being part of the Founding Members Club, you're going to be trying as hard as possible to hold to this four-line. You're going to be searching for the next thing you suck at constantly. And it's going to be, if you were by yourself, it would suck, but you're not. You're with a group of guys who are with you here, And so we're all on the same page, we're all on the same team, and we're all allowed to ask questions. We're all allowed to help each other. And that's really what this is about. So that's the four-line. I wanted to sort of go over that. I go over that in a lot of detail in my Hacking Attraction course. I believe that the Hacking Attraction course, I think it's in the first day of Hacking Attraction. Brad, do you know if it is or not? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't either. It's 5 days, so it's a lot of information. But I think if it wasn't the first day, then you already have access to it. If you go into your members area and you click on Hacking Attraction Day 1, you'll get it. By the way, tomorrow we should have a new members area, hopefully going live.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's really sweet.
Yeah,
you guys are gonna love it.
Yeah, it's really everything we've been waiting for. So. Actually, I just got my login info for that members area right now. I wish I could screen share with everybody so you could see it. But anyway, so that's what's going to be happening. I wanted to let you know that. But we will be launching that soon. We'll be able to handle a lot of if you've seen any bugs at all, I'm sure you have, because I've seen them, and they've been keeping me up at night thinking about how guys can't communicate properly on there. It just really stresses me out. So we got a lot of stuff handled. I think you'll be really proud of it and really happy with it. So when we get into that, you'll be able to ask all those questions that you need, and I'll be able to go in and actually respond back now. I've been having some really hard times responding recently because of bug issues. So we'll get that handled, and we'll get this thing back rolling again, back in smooth operating again. But ultimately, though, I wanted to sort of hit on that four-line there, and let you know that it's not about avoiding the things you suck at. It's about facing them directly like a man, and really manning up. And, for lack of a better phrase, stop being a little bitch, about it. And that, like I said, I wrote that down on my marker board. I had this giant marker board in my apartment in New York. And even when I was still I was teaching this stuff for a living, I still wrote down stop being a little bitch at the top of the marker board, because it was something that I wanted to handle. I wanted to face my fears, face everything that I needed to. And so I had to go through that. I really had to. So, I'm going to go ahead, if I can, and unmute. I can't see your full name here, but you're in Austin, Texas. Let me go and unmute you here and let that go. Let's see if I can do this. Uh-oh. Let's see. Right, are you there?
Yes, this is Franklin.
Hey, Franklin, what's going on?
Hey,
man?
Franklin, what's up?
Hey. Yes, I have a question. I find very useful this concept of working on beliefs. I really like that because that's so fundamental. I have gotten really good results, especially in the area of fear.
Right.
And in the question that I have is more related to anger.
Yeah.
And what kind of belief do you put in place to control anger? And the reason why I'm asking this, and it may be relevant to our conversation, is like, if women or somebody else is testing you, or something happens that you are not, quite prepared, and then that affects your emotions, and anger is a big one.
Right.
What kind of beliefs? I know that I used to be the guy who used to get angry. That that's the immediate one that I may put over there. But what else can you work yourself into believing so you don't lose control and therefore show low value?
Right. And actually, this is a First off, Franklin, let me say that this is actually a really intelligent question, because you're asking the right question. You're asking, how do I not get angry because I know that shows low value? Because it does. You're right. You know, when you're reactive like that to a woman when she asks you questions or when she tests you, that's exactly whenever she's going to look at you, and everyone else is going to look at you being angry, and they're going to go low value. You know, they're going to go, that person's not attractive. He doesn't, he doesn't even know this girl, and he already likes to affect him. So that's really a very, very good question. If you wouldn't mind, Franklin, would you mind if I ask you a question about yourself? Would you mind sharing?
Sure.
Okay. This is a really kind of deep question, and I'll make it a very light question. Brad, you might know where I'm going with this because I know you studied a bit of this. But would you say, Franklin, that you're a bit of a perfectionist?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So here's what's happening. Brad, just to kind of give you a note here, I already know Franklin's Enneagram type.
Okay.
He's a 1. So essentially, there's this personality typing system that I really hope to be able to teach you guys on the Founding Members Club calls, because it's a super advanced. I mean, so advanced that it took me up until about 2 years to be able to really understand it in the first place. And the reason why I know you're a perfectionist, Franklin, is because anger is a response of somebody who feels like they're not good enough. And the only person who feels like they're not good enough constantly is a perfectionist. And that's one of these types. There are 9 different types on this personality typing sort of system. And the first type is a type 1, and that's a perfectionist. Now, the dark side of a perfectionist is uncontrollable rage. Like, they can get in the point where they're just so angry, they flip. Like a switch just flips, right? And they're like, "Ugh," you know? And so to control that, the first thing you're going to have to do, and there's 2 parts to this, Franklin, and this is where it gets kind of deep here, and this is why I wanted to ask you if it was okay. The first thing you're going to have to do is accept your imperfections, right? So this is the biggest fear of a type 1, is to say, I'm not perfect and that's okay. In fact, to say that nobody's perfect and that's beautiful. That's really what you need to absolutely focus on. Because what this will do is when someone freaks out at you or someone tests you, you'll have 2 things to back that up. They're not perfect and that's all right. You know, they're confused and that's okay. And the other one is, I'm not perfect and that's all right. You know, that's okay. So sort of the Wyatt Woodsmall is the guy who taught me this, and he was the longtime mentor of a guy named Tony Robbins, and he taught this guy Tony Robbins everything he knows about coaching people, essentially. And he taught me as well. So this guy Wyatt Woodsmall taught Tony Robbins, and he taught me. Tony Robbins is probably the most famous platform speaker and motivational speaker in the world. He's a huge motivational speaker. And he was in Shallow Hal, by the way, the movie, if that helps you place him. So ultimately, he taught me this system called the Enneagram typing system. And what you can do is you can recognize what someone's sort of bottleneck is, where they're getting wrapped up, and you can help them release that spot, and it ends up fixing 99% of their problems, right? So most of your problems, Franklin, are going to come within your over-ambitious idea that you can be perfect. You know, that something can be perfect, that anything can be perfect, right? Now, that could be depressing. It could be like, oh, well, that sucks because, if nothing's perfect, then nothing's beautiful. But what your goal here, over the next, until our next call, which will be next week, actually, your goal, Franklin, is to find beauty in the imperfections in the world. Now, I know this isn't directly about women, so let me just tie us all back in so you can understand, and that, I know you understand already, but so you can relate it to women here, and you can see the results that'll happen immediately. So if you see the beauty in the imperfections of the world, what will happen is when somebody tests you, let's say you walk into a bar, and you walk up to a woman, and she's done up and looking gorgeous and everything, and you say, hey, you're going to be my new best friend. Let's hang out. You can help me meet chicks, right? And she says, leave me alone, right? So right then, if you believe that you are a, imperfect guy, let's say, and you have your imperfections, then what she said is going to be a direct and personal insult to you. Does that make sense, Franklin?
Mm-hmm.
So you'll take that as as me? I try harder than all of you put together to be perfect. I'm more perfect than everybody here. My whole life is about being right and doing things right, about doing the right thing, and who is she to tell you otherwise, right? That's exactly the response that you're going to have. And that is going to make you what? It's going to make you angry, It's going to make you very angry because you'll be, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. She's wrong. And it's just calling out something that you feel is not good. Also, the type 1s fall into a couple of different categories too. And I don't know you at all, Franklin, but a lot of type 1s can be addicted to things, meaning alcohol or anything, right? Drugs, anything. Working out, work, and it's an addictive personality. Why? Because it's hard to live with yourself whenever you're holding yourself to an unreasonable standard all the time, trying to be perfect all the time, right? So if you want a belief system, first off, that's going to get rid of that anger, you have to go deeper than just, saying, well, all women who insult me think I'm hot. That's true. It's probably true. They probably are attracted to you in the first place. But it's going to have to be deeper for yourself. It may have to be something that seems indirect for you for a moment. It may be something that you focus on just your own belief systems for a little bit, and they have nothing else to do with anybody else, just you. And one of those might be that, here's what I used to do, Franklin. This might help you. Before I walked up to a girl, especially if she was super hot, when I couldn't control my approach anxiety, when I would walk up and I was so scared to walk up that I would just freak, I would start sweating and shaking. Back then I didn't have any way to control that. So here's what I did. I imagined that I was the only adult in a room full of 6-year-olds. And the whole bar was made up of 6-year-olds. And I imagined this girl I was talking to being 6 years old while I was talking to her. Just until I knew she wasn't going to test me anymore. I would just look at her as being an adult again, because that's kind of creepy. So I would look at her as being a 6-year-old. And when she said something that was insulting, immediately I thought, that's something a 6-year-old would say. That sounds like something a 6-year-old would say to me. If a 6-year-old comes up to you, Franklin, and it's a little boy, and he walks up and he says, "You're stupid." What do? What, do you punch him in the face? No. You're like, "Oh, you're just a 6-year-old. What do you know?" Right? It's what does a 6-year-old know? He doesn't know anything. So it doesn't affect you, and yet you're also still not judging that person. You're going, "Oh, well, you're 6 years old. That's cute." Right? That's cute. And if you think the same way when you go out to a bar, until someone starts to build rapport with you, you will be so wildly successful. You'll be beating women off of you with a stick. And that's just how it is, You'll be fighting women off, and the reason why is because you won't care about the outcome anymore. Right now, you have this belief in your head that if a girl likes you, that proves to yourself that you are worthy, that you're good, that you're doing something right. But the truth is, that's not the case. The truth is that if a woman likes you, it just means that you're doing something right then. It doesn't mean that you're awesome at everything. So what you want to do instead is look to improve yourself, not look to validate yourself. Does that make sense, Franklin?
Yes.
Okay. And I know it's kind of like a really deep-rooted concept, and really it can, we went kind of deep down in there. But in order to control this process, which it'll have a grip over you forever if you don't control it, and it'll affect you in lots of different ways, and it'll feel like at some point at your worst moment, it'll feel like you're always being judged, always, by everybody, and that's sort of the world of a type 1, right? If you let it get out of control and you let it own you, then it will always feel like you are being judged by everyone. And so to avoid that, let's take one belief that will help you get this direction. One would be, everybody is a 6-year-old until I build rapport. Everybody's a 6-year-old. Guys and girls alike, no matter who they are, how big they are, how loud they are, it doesn't matter. Everybody's a 6-year-old until you decide they're not. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I also used to do something else, Franklin. What's that?
Yeah. No, very, very useful. I find quite scary all the things that you can tell by very little,
Mm-hmm.
and because that has been my life, and it's just really cool that you already have these suggestions, because you would think, he's a good psychologist, but then you will think, oh no, he's actually reading my mind.
Well, I would like to teach you how to do this. I would love to teach you guys how to do what I do. If you can imagine, Franklin, if you had the power that I have to read people's minds like this, how amazing it would be to use this with women. To walk up to a woman and go, hey, I have a question for you. Does anyone else know that you're a tomboy? And she's like, oh my God. Or knowing immediately that a woman you walk up to has hates her job without ever talking to her, or loves her job, or that she's a trapeze artist, or whatever you want to know. Being able to tell things about them that they don't even know about themselves. Hey, your biggest fear is to be sort of left alone in a world, an unforgiving world that will never take care of you. Brad's laughing because Brad knows what type that is, and he's got a lot of friends that's actually what they believe. It's being.
I was also imagining that as an opening line at a bar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can tell by the way that you're afraid. Your biggest fear is being left alone in an unforgiving world. No, but ultimately the biggest fear of a type 1 is to be defective, and knowing that. First off, Franklin, you will never hear me ever say in a million years that you are defective, because A, that's not true, and B, it's unforgivable to insult somebody with their biggest insulting, sort of biggest loophole, which is what that is. I have one. Brad has one too. Everybody has one. We've all got these little things that sort of own us, and we don't know that they do. So anyway, yeah, there's a pattern that I can recognize, and I can teach you guys how to recognize it too. I would love to teach you. I actually go into a lot of the patterns in hacking attraction, which is my video course. And over the next couple of days, Franklin, you should be able to grab a copy of that and watch it. It's a really long course. It's 5 days long, and it's real time. We don't edit out very much, It's a live course of me teaching. At the end of the course, my voice is almost entirely gone because I was talking so much for 5 days straight, 8 hours a day for 5 days straight. But I go into some of this typing stuff during that video course. So if you do want to get a copy of it, you can shoot me an email or something if you don't have it already. But if you do have it, watch it, because I do go into some of that stuff. And in the next live event, I'm going to be going over some things kind of similar to that. And I'm happy to teach it to everybody. So thanks for sharing, Franklin. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks.
All right. I need another person to raise their hand here. *2 will raise your hand, and I'd love to help you out in the same way I just helped Franklin. If I can personality type you in a certain way, anything that helps reveal things about yourself, that's good. But also, if you have any questions or anything you want to reveal, just press *2 right now on your phone, and it will raise your hand, and I'll be able to talk to you. Anything at all that you want to share with us, or you want to get off your chest, or you have any questions about over the past couple of weeks since you've been sort of practicing these new belief system creation processes, you will be able to press *2, and I'll be able to ask you that question. You'll be able to ask that question now live. Again, use this time because I have, I charge several $100s an hour for phone coaching, and you guys are getting in as founding members. You get this is part of your package 3 times a month, so you're getting a hell of a deal, and you'd be very wise to ask me any questions that you may have. And if it's not about the subject matter, if it's about something else entirely, as long as it's about women, screw it. If it's about anything. I'd prefer it was about women, but if you have a question about your family or friends or something like that, I can help you with that too, in some kind of way. But press *2 on your phone, and it'll raise your hand. I'll be able to see that here, that you've sort of virtually raised your hand, and I'll be able to call on you. Until we get into that, though, Brad, do you want to go ahead and go down a few more things that we went over this past month and sort of reiterate and help guys get back into the way that we're thinking and sort of touch on some stuff that we went over last week?
Yeah, you were getting into pretty good detail about the concept of last time we talked, we called it leaning into pain, and that's just sort of embracing uncomfortable situations because that's where all growth comes from.
Right.
And you talked about that pretty well tonight.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that there's this guy. You may have heard of him before if you're on this call. His name is David D'Angelo, and he's a friend of mine. He's a friend of mine and an acquaintance, really. I don't see him hardly ever. He lives and not in L.A., but essentially he had this concept that I really loved, and he said we are always afraid to look in the dark corners of our lives, the dark, deep, scary corners of our lives. And the funny thing is that in the dark corners is where we hide all the gold. All the stuff that we really, really want, that's really going to help us, we hide in those dark corners. So if you can reach into those dark corners, if you can look at those dark corners, you can then reveal the things that are hiding in there, the things that are actually going to help, your true superpowers, your weaknesses, everything that you've been sort of afraid of and you've been hiding forever, you will come across and you'll be able to use then and actually correct. So you want to always, and sort of the dark corners, so to speak, is what hurts you. It's a scary thing. It's the uncomfortable place in your life. And so you want to lean into that uncomfortable place, that pain, and experience that fully, because whenever you're in your uncomfortable state, you automatically grow. You automatically improve yourself. That's why, I know that looking for things that you suck at makes you uncomfortable. But if you look for things that you suck at, then you automatically will work on improving them because you'll be uncomfortable. And as soon as you're uncomfortable, your subconscious mind and every other part of your body, it's like sociobiological here. It's something that's really deep rooted in our neurology. Your subconscious mind begins to correct the problem immediately because it can't deal with the discomfort. It can't handle it. So it fixes it. So if you recognize the discomfort and lean into this discomfort of being around women all the time and not knowing how to talk to them, then your subconscious mind will start to correct that for you. And it'll feel as if you've always had this power once you get it. I know it's weird, but you look back and you'll go, man, I can't believe that I ever thought that this was hard before. Because as you improve, your subconscious mind goes, got it, and it's just going to happen always. It changes the way you move, the way you act, the way you look at people. When you look at a woman and she makes eye contact with you and she smiles, you might wink instead of looking down and looking away. It'll seem as if this is just second nature and it's always been this way. But remember that it hasn't always been this way. Remember where you came from, because that's a very powerful place to come from. It built you into who you are. And remember that you are improving, because at times it's not going to be as obvious that you are improving. It's going to be hard to see, and you're going to have to pull back on this data. You're going to have to look it up and go, you know what? I remember I used to have this problem, but now I have a totally new and more advanced problem than that. And I am growing, and it is getting better. So just remember that. Word.
Definitely. And, I think when you're ready for it, finding out your Enneagram type is a powerful way to do that, because it really takes your biggest fear, the deepest, darkest corner. And as soon as you can look that in the eyes and say, wow, that's what I've been running from my whole life. And it does exactly what you said. First of all, you get to look your darkest fear in the eye and call it by name. That's sort of it's always been a powerful spiritual concept is sort of, taking away the power that like demons have or something by calling them by name, and they suddenly have no power. And that's, I just, see that as a metaphor for your fears.
Right.
Because as soon as you can recognize it and be like, oh, that's why I'm doing X, Y, and Z, because I'm afraid that I'm going to be seen as weak or corrupt or worthless or whatever your overarching fear is. And then the flip side of that, which you also said, is that it also reveals powers that you've had your whole life that you didn't even realize, and you may not have been really capitalizing on, but they were there despite your best efforts to cover them up. For example, my type is sort of just a natural leader, and I never thought of myself as a leader growing up. But then when I when I looked at it and I said, wow, you know, I am a natural leader, and I sort of challenged that belief, I looked back, and in every group I've ever been in, there was always this sort of like understanding that I was the leader. You know, I would inspire people to move across the country with me. You know, that's happened. I've just and I just because I didn't consciously do it, I didn't think that I had any control over it. But
right,
you know, now I look back and it was always there.
You know, the interesting thing is that first off, you were naming off a few things a minute ago, and you're like, oh, weak or whatever, blah blah, and then you said mine, and I just stopped listening to what you're saying and zoned out and thought about it because I was like, oh, it's such a powerful thing. I mean, it's I'm actually hesitant to even say what my type is. I'll probably do it in person instead of saying it on this call, because once you know someone's type, you can literally make them cry by sending them an email or calling them something, you know, because it happens a lot, because your deepest, darkest fear and what you don't want to be considered to anyone else is right there on the open, and everyone can see it, you know.
Even if you do it to sort of help them. I had one experience where I told a friend, you know, sort of just matter of factly, well, I think you're this type, and you know, just for example, you know, I said her darkest fear, and she started crying, and I was like, but I wasn't trying to insult you. I was just, you know.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It is very, very, very difficult, and that's the one leverage point, you know, that everybody has one of these. This is what's amazing, and there's only 9 of them, so you can tell when it's really hard to find this thing about somebody. It's very rare, Franklin. Whenever you were on, it's very rare to have that you know, that ability to be able to just talk to somebody and be like, oh, yeah, I got it. You know, I got your type. Usually I'm not as accurate as that, but it takes me a little while to figure it out. But, you know, if you got this honed in and you could figure it out, holy shit. I mean, it's just a superpower and a half. So, again, like I said, we will be teaching this in the future to guys, and learn it at your own risk, because as soon as we go into it, man, there's no turning back. You can't unknow what you know.
Exactly.
I just had a hand go up, and then I was just about to click on it, and then it went down. I'm not sure why. If it was someone in Houston, Texas. If you do want to put your hand back up again, feel free to do it, and I'll call on you now. But if not, I won't unmute you for a little bit. But let me know if you do have a question, guys. Press *2. We're about to get toward the end of this, and I would love to talk to you a little bit more and answer some more of your questions. Larry, I saw you kind of going in and off, on and off this call like 4 times. I'm not sure if you got kicked off or not, but I wanted to let you know, Larry, in case you were getting kicked off, that we are going to try to do this on the web next time too, so you can listen in on the internet as well. So feel free to do that. So all right, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you here. I'm not sure who this is in Houston, Texas, but I'll go ahead and unmute it now. Let's see here. All right, go ahead and talk. Who is this?
This is John in Houston.
Hey, John, how you doing, brother?
What's up, John?
I'm doing good.
All right, man.
Actually, you know, I've got a comment and a question.
Okay.
The comment is, you know, since I've been on your system, it's been fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I guess. Oh, with one of the approaching lines of, you know, when I'm meeting with women and I go through the ordeal to where they come to, and like you've said in your book and you've said in your commentary a few times, where the girl asks, you know, they'll come at you and start laughing, and they'll say that, you know, you really think you're hot, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, my first initial reaction to them is, you know, without hesitation, is you know, girl, I am so hot that if I were her, I would be twins. So, you know, that's really worked fabulous for me, and I've had great success with everything that you've put out so far.
Awesome, man. I like to add that to the banter cheat sheet if I can. Maybe I'll be able to add that in.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Cool, man.
But I guess my question is I have got a girl
Mm-hmm.
that I still care about very much.
Mm-hmm.
That's down.
That's where?
It's like, excuse me?
You cut out. I didn't hear what you said. She's what? You said you care about her very much, and what?
Oh, she lives about 250 miles away.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
And we dated for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of broke off.
Mm-hmm.
It did break off, but we still talk every single day.
Mm-hmm.
But it almost feels like with this long distance relationship that I don't know, I kind of feel like I fell into the friend zone.
Right.
But then again, I kind of feel like she's wanting to go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm kind of hesitant to try to push it somewhere else.
Right. Okay.
So can you give me some advice on the way that I should approach that? Because I do want to pursue it.
Right. Okay. So here's a question for you before I answer that. Are you a patient man, John?
I am very patient.
Okay, good. Because you're gonna need some patience for this one. I have just to kind of give you an example of this. I'm not sure if you know this. I don't tell this story very often, but recently I've been saying a little bit more just because I've gotten to know these guys a little bit better and know you guys a little better on the call. I'm not sure if I've said this to you guys or not, but about 9 years ago, I had that exact same situation. I was met a girl. She was amazing, and I didn't know what I was doing with women at all, so it didn't work out. I ended up moving away, but I kept trying to get in touch with her and keep in touch with her for a long time, and it wasn't going anywhere. As long as I kept in touch with her, it seemed like she really didn't have any reason to talk to me. It would be hard to get a hold of her, or I wouldn't hear back or whatever. It seemed like I was just screwing it up worse, right? And so
yeah.
So what I did is I stopped contacting her altogether, and I was like, okay, screw this for a bit. I'm going to try to figure this stuff out because I haven't figured this out yet. So I went on this sort of journey to figure out women, and it took me a long time to figure it out because I did it on my own. And this is what I built the Tao of Badass into. And so I was studying my own. I was screwing up. It took me forever because I wasn't, no one was coaching me. No one was helping me. I didn't ask anybody. I was just trying to figure it out on my own. And I started, talking to other women eventually and trying to figure out them. So maybe I could go back and figure out this first girl. And after about 8 years of trial and error, which it was way longer than I should have needed to do this, I ended up basically running into her again. And I had this knowledge in my hands. I had the information, and I knew what I was doing. And now we live together. And this was the first girl I ever fell in love with. This is the one that I was like, oh my God, the reason why I got in this in the first place. So the first thing I would say is that the thing that saved me is that I didn't try to force the relationship then. Because if I tried to force it then, I would have screwed it up and we wouldn't be together now. No way, So you have to keep in mind that there's a possibility that you may have to pull back a little bit, make a transformation, and then go back and talk to her. The first thing that you're doing right now that's going to work against you is you're probably, since you talk every day, you're probably building rapport on the phone. Now, when you build rapport, on the phone, you don't have any physical anchor for that rapport. During the rapport process, when you're actually making an emotional connection with somebody, if you're not sitting across from them or next to them and actually physically touching them while you're building rapport, then you fall into the friend zone. And the reason why is because trust is anchored to touch. And if there's no touch there while you're building trust, what happens is you get the trust, but you don't get the sexuality that attaches to trust. So the physical touch during the rapport process is what allows you to move forward into the sexual stage, the seduction stage. And that's the stage that, if you got there now, you wouldn't be in a situation where you felt like you were in the friend zone. And the reason why that's happening currently is because you're building rapport on the phone. You can't build rapport over the phone unless it's absolutely temporary, like once or twice, and that's it. If she's 250 miles away, and you do want to be with her, I would, either A, your goal is to convince her to come visit you, or B, I wouldn't necessarily say that you should go visit her, especially if you're in the situation that you're in right now, the kind of friend zone situation. It'd be better if you could convince her to come to you, because that would be a massive, commitment for her to do it, and it would be something that she would be committing to doing, and she would have to sort of, as she goes through the process, she'd be like, well, I wouldn't do this for a guy unless I was into him, and she'll sort of backwards rationalize being attracted to you. And this is sort of how we operate. I know it's kind of weird, but it is how we operate as people. So I would do that instead. If you can get her to come out and visit you, good. If you're going to be where she is already, don't tell her you're coming. Just call her and be like, hey, I just want to let you know I had to come out here, so I'm in town. If you want to grab something, let me know. I'll be over here at this time. I'll be at this place at this time if you want to hang out. And then that's it. Don't try to ask her out on a date. Nothing like that. So if I were you, if I were you, if you really do want to go for her, first off, you got to know you're not in a relationship with her, so you can do whatever you want. I mean, you can talk to any women, you can flirt with, you can sleep with any women you want, you can date any women you want. But if you're exclusive with the woman, then you obviously have to tell this one that you're not going to be able to date her. So what I would do is, there's lots of ways of doing this, but ultimately, I would say that the most powerful way of doing it is to stop building rapport on the phone, meaning that make your phone calls short, funny, lighthearted, silly, and then you need to be the one to go, I gotta go, maybe after 10 minutes at the max, I gotta split, I gotta take care of some stuff, and then make a joke and make her laugh and go, all right, I'll talk to you tomorrow, I'll talk to you later, all right, then get off the phone. And watch her response. Watch her start to text you back and want more, and that's what will happen. She'll start to want more from you. And then from there, you may be able to get her to come hang out with you, or maybe she's got a boyfriend and you don't even know about it. That's possible. So you can't give her the thing that she wants from you and let her get everything else from someone else. You need to let her life sort of run its course there, or if she's dating somebody, her love life, let it run its course there without you. And then when she's ready to come back and get everything she wants, she'll come back to you. If you keep feeding her the thing that she's missing, she'll stay there, and she'll keep dating guys that don't fulfill this emotional part of her, and you're the guy who's fulfilling the emotional part. So she'll get into bad relationships. You'll be causing her to get into abusive relationships because you're feeding her the emotional part of a relationship, and she doesn't need to go anywhere else to get it. So challenge her to go somewhere else to get that from some other guy, and she won't be able to get it like she gets it from you. And as soon as she tries it out a couple times, she'll come back, or, what would be even better for her, she finds a guy who's great and perfect for her, and she's with that guy, and he fulfills her fully, and you're let go from this. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You're not being led on anymore. So either way, you win. I know that right now it's kind of hard to look at that and go, well, if she found somebody else, that's not a win. That feels like crap. Well, the only way to, like I said, if you're a patient man, you'll be okay with this. The only way to, you have a choice, essentially. I was going to go somewhere else with that, but let me just make it blunt. You have a choice. Either be a part of her past or be a part of her future. And that's your choice. So if you are patient and you want to be a part of her future, you got to give her space. You got to go out and you got to learn your stuff. You have to learn this stuff. You have to know this stuff, John. You're already learning it. You're already getting better. You have to continue. You have to master it. And as you go on through this process of mastery, you'll meet all sorts of women, and they may make you forget about this girl for a little while, But if ever in the future, what's that? What's that? Say again.
Many of the women that I've been meeting have,
right?
But she's in the back of my mind, and
right.
Like I said, we talk.
Right. So I would say, that rapport that you built with her is keeping you and her both hanging on by a thread here. Cut that line. Let you both sort of fall apart. You have to trust that she's going to get on her feet. If she doesn't get on her feet and she doesn't come back, then she's gone anyway. You were desperately trying to keep her on. It's not going to work. You have to go out, get successful, and then come back and then interact with her from a different place, from a place of control, from a place of power, And whenever you do that, things will shift immediately. So the first thing you want to do is cut down your phone calls to be, you don't have to tell her that you want to cut down your phone calls, but you do have to, be more lighthearted. Don't get serious about stuff. Just be playful and fun, and then get off the phone. Don't call her in the middle of the night or at nighttime to say good night or anything. Call her during the daytime and just go, holy crap, I got to tell you this. It was really funny. Something you probably tell to a friend, I just saw this guy. He was, blah, blah, and just tell her a story. And then it's funny, and she laughs, and you laugh. You go, okay, look, I got to go. I just wanted to tell you because I thought it was funny. I'll talk to you later. And then hang up. She'll say bye. And then she'll start to communicate with you. She'll start to get a hold of you. She'll start to text you, call you, trying to get your attention. And whenever you're in that position, try to get her to come visit you from there. If she does, you may be able to just snap it up right then, and it might work. But if not, if you're a patient man, you're going to go down this path of self-discovery and self-improvement. And that's where most of your absolute power is going to come from, John. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Cool, man. Well, if you have any other questions at all, man, please let me know,
I appreciate the feedback.
Mm-hmm. Is that it, or are you good, or you good till the next call, or you have anything else?
No, I'm totally good with that. Let's say you set me straight.
Okay. Awesome, man. No, I'm here to help. That's all. So man, thanks for calling, and thanks for sharing that with us. We appreciate it. Awesome.
Also, I sent you a comment, and maybe other people on this call have the same comment. That I'm on your founding members club. And I know that you had a boot camp coming up in Las Vegas in October. I've never seen the date posted or anything like that.
Yeah, we haven't posted the date because we were waiting for the new members area to get done before we posted it. So the new members area is actually I have it live, not live now for everybody, but it's live for me right now. So I'm going to go check it out. As soon as I approve of it, it goes live, and then we get to post all the dates and everything on there. So should be, by the beginning of next week, we should have a date on there. Anybody's part of the founding members club will be able to see that. Actually, everybody will be able to see that course, and you'll be able to sort of register and set that up, and you'll see where it is, the exact dates, and you'll be able to start booking hotels and everything so you can get out there. Is that cool?
Okay.
Perfect.
That's cool.
All right.
Very much.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All righty. Well, guys, Brad, anything for you to add to that at all, or?
Oh, it was great.
Anything for you to Brad to that? So looks like we're running out of time here. We have about 5 more minutes. If anyone has any other questions, press *2 now, and I'll be able to get to it real quick. Probably only be able to get to one more question, and looks like no one's really raising their hands right now, so that's good. If you do have a question, just especially a short one, pop it up real quick. Press *2 on your phone, and we'll be able to answer it. Brad, do you want to go ahead and quickly go over the rest of the stuff we want to talk about today, and then I'll sort of head into what we're going to be talking about next week.
Well, we really all have to keep aware of and continue to embrace that, stepping out of your comfort zone, that mentality. I mean, it's just part of being a badass. So definitely reiterate that. And, one other last thing that we did touch on is the concept of polar opposing insecurity compensation. Yeah,
that's a big term. Do you want to explain what that means?
Yeah, it's basically, whatever. It really, it goes hand in hand with all this talk about, deepest fears that we've been having. A lot of people will take some of their fears and overcompensate. They don't want other people to see that part of them, so they overcompensate by being the exact opposite. And it's just, it's kind of a weak behavior, and we want to be able to recognize that and squash it in ourselves, I guess.
Right. So essentially, whenever you are, whenever you do have a fear of people seeing you as something, or a fear that you don't want to become something, polar opposing insecurity compensation is where you focus on that thing you don't want to be, and you end up becoming the exact opposite of it by accident, which is another extreme, which is also unattractive. So you don't want to do that. You want to instead integrate what you're afraid of becoming and realize that that's a part of you a little bit. That's not very comfortable at all. But it's the truth. I had to accept that I was a little bit arrogant at times, and that's okay. If there's something that you don't want to be, like some douchebag you don't want to be, or some shallow guy you don't want to be, or whatever, you have to embrace that part that you're running away from a little bit and realize that there's a part of you, a little bit of you at least, that is a little bit shallow, that can be shallow at times, that can be arrogant at times, that can be loud at times, and sometimes sometimes hurts people's feelings because, you just don't care. And also you may have time, a part of you that's sort of intolerant and you're afraid of that. That's really bad and you don't like that. Well, you have to understand and accept that about yourself before you can ever get over it. Polar opposing insecurity compensation forces you instead to be a total doormat or to be, a wet blanket on everybody's fun because you don't want to be too shallow. You always want to be deep or something, or a nice guy that no women like. I mean, they like, but they don't like. It forces you to screw everything up, essentially. So you want to be in control of that. Anytime you see that you are, focusing on what you don't want to become, you instead need to think about and need to focus on what you do want to become. And then you need to integrate and realize that the thing that you don't want to be is already a part of you. And you already do that thing to a certain extent. And I know it might be depressing in the first instance when you first think about it. But when you realize that that's who you are and you're still a good person, things get a lot easier. You're still awesome. And that's really what's okay. That's what you really need to know, is that is, you are, part of me is arrogant, but I'm not as arrogant as everybody else. I'm not as arrogant as the guys that I look at and I'm like, oh, that's ugly. It's because they're doing it too much. It's because they're afraid. They're being super arrogant because they're afraid that people are going to think that they're going to be too humble all the time and they're not going to take any credit for anything. So they have their polar opposing insecurity compensation going on too. So what you want to do is you want to find that middle ground and go, all right, I'm a little bit of both, and that's all right. That's who I am, and that's perfectly fine. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Brad. I appreciate that. The thing I want to talk about now, Brad, we have a calendar running for the founding member calls. I'm going to go ahead and log into it right now because I need to move the next date here back a day. We're going to post this live. You should be able to see the founding members calendar in your members area now, but it'll be more clear as soon as we get this new system live. But we had it scheduled for a week from today, but I do believe that we're going to be moving this to Wednesday. So next Wednesday at 6 p.m., you're going to be a part of another founding members call. It'll be the first call of next month. And that means we have a totally new topic that is not inner game based and isn't, what we've been talking about this past month. And that is going to be attraction, which is every guy's favorite subject besides seduction. So we're going to be going over attraction. I'm going to be going over the major stages of attraction. There are 3 major stages, and they are the introduction, or some people call it approach, some people call it opening, whatever you want to call it. We're going to go over the demonstrating high value stage, where you are sort of showing that you are worth something. And then we're going to go over the qualifying stage, where you get women to chase you. And I'm going to go over in pretty strong detail how to do each one of these things. It's going to be a very dense phone call. It's going to be a lot of content. Come with your questions already in hand, because we're probably going to have a lot of questions next week on Wednesday. You will get an email, of course, letting you know that the call is going to be happening. You'll get a reminder, so put it in your calendar. You can also subscribe to our calendar. We're going to have to figure out how to do that, Brad, how to let everybody subscribe to the calendar so they can see it anytime they want. We'll figure that out, and we'll send you guys the details on how to do that in an email. But ultimately, next week on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, and whatever time it was today, your time, that's where it's going to be, when it's going to be. We are also going to try to have this one allow you guys to not have to call in on your phone, so you can just go to the webpage and listen, which would be great. I think I can actually see if you're doing other stuff too. If you go on a website, if you leave and go to some other page, I can see that you're doing that, so I'll be watching you. But ultimately, yeah, you can do that, and you can record it yourself if you want. But we already recorded this one. This one the replay will be available as soon as we get it edited. and we get it uploaded. So we'll have that ready for you immediately. Next week on Wednesday, though, write that down at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. The next call will be live, and we will be talking about attraction. Do not miss it. Make sure you're there and you're on the call and you're ready to go at 6 p.m. Pacific sharp, because we are going to be rocking immediately, because we don't have time to waste on the next call next week. And then the whole next month, we're going to be talking about attraction, and specifically the 3 stages of attraction, and how to recognize what stage you're in and sort of see the matrix. So can't wait to show you guys that information. Thank you so much for being on the call. Brad, thanks for hosting this for us and being the MC of the house. Appreciate it. And thanks to your dogs. So, they're the doggies of the house. So we'll see you guys next week on Wednesday. And until then, if you have any questions, as always, post them in the members area. But if I were you and you have a question you want to get it answered, I'd wait until the new one goes live and then post it there, because we're going to have to manually port in all of the questions that have been asked already in the members area and add them one by one. So make sure that you wait until that's live. Go live when it goes live. Check it out and start communicating, and it's going to be a whole new world for you. I can't wait. So, all right, guys, take care. I'll talk to you next week. Have a good one. Bye.
The conference is now completed.